Chapter 81. There had been no news of Li Hongyuan these days, and the case of the flower market didn't find anything important as he wished. However, it was more or less proved that his good sons were involved in it. It was just that none of them gained anything in the end. Lu Qingdi had been in a state of rage. In order to warn them, several groups of people were found to be important scapegoats. Nobody knew how many people's black veils had been stolen, and how many people's blood had been stained. The princes all hid themselves obediently, and didn't dare to act rashly. Even the people sent to White Dragon Temple were all withdrawn after receiving some specious news. Lu Qingdi sent people to the nearby villages and towns where White Dragon Temple was located. They constantly expanded the search area, including the river where Li Hongyuan fell into. He had been salvaged back and forth countless times. It was true that no one found him alive or dead. After so many days, they still couldn't find him. Most likely, he had been eaten by fish. Shut up. Lu Qingdi was furious. He just didn't believe that his scourge of a son was dead. Perhaps it was really because Ding General Manor had enjoyed supreme glory for nearly 100 years. Among the 4 dukes and 9 marquises who founded the country, Ding General Manor was the only one that stood firm. Therefore, in Duke Ding's subconscious mind, he could do whatever he wanted as long as it was not a crime of treason. Therefore, when Lu Qingdi was angry, he repeatedly ran to Lu Qingdi and cried that his poor daughter, who was in the prime of her life, was disfigured and her life was over. Lu Qingdi actually knew Duke Ding's purpose. He just wanted to give him a son-in-law that he liked. At this time, the Empress should have dissuaded her brother. However, for the sake of her son, she not only didn't dissuade him, but also pretended to persuade Lu Qingdi. She said that her brother loved his daughter very much, and only had one precious daughter. If his daughter's face was disfigured, it would only delay her marriage, and Lu Qingdi only needed to say a word to solve it. He said it so casually, as if Lu Qingdi's one word was enough to decide everything. Emperor Lu Qingdi laughed, which made Empress Sun inexplicably frightened. After that she felt uneasy. Sure enough, something bad happened the next day. An imperial edict of marriage, written by Emperor Lu Qingdi himself, was read out in front of all the civil and military officials in the morning court. Once the imperial edict was issued, there was no room for regret. Seeing that more than half of the people in the imperial court were stunned, Lu Qingdi felt a sense of satisfaction. Don't think that Lu Qingdi didn't know that his eldest son's marriage with Sun Yijia was ruined by that vile spawn. Don't think that he didn't know that the Empress and the others wanted to use the marriage to rope in people. In order to find another good wife, Duke Dinggua's mansion was picking left and right, and running around in many ways. Those who didn't know would think that he loved his daughter very much, and those who knew, many people secretly mocked him. This was not marrying his daughter, but selling her. To put it bluntly, it was no different from goods waiting for a high price. Whoever gave the highest price would be able to marry the unparalleled beauty. The power of Duke Ding's mansion was there, and the eldest son of the emperor had the highest possibility of ascending the throne. After all, he was the eldest son of the emperor. His ability was not the best among the princes, but it was not bad either. In terms of etiquette and law, it was justifiable for him to ascend the throne. Naturally, there were so many people who were eager to make a move, so that the rumors between Sun Yijia and the eldest son of the emperor, Prince Kong, could be ignored. Unfortunately, before the dust settled, something happened to Sun Yijia. It had to be said that Sun Yijia's existence in this transaction was equivalent to a token. As long as she existed well, that was her greatest value. Then, whether her face was intact or not wasn't that important. However, if they really voluntarily married such a woman, the transaction would be put on the table. Some things were very good to know, but they couldn't be exposed to the surface. Face was very important to a family. If they only cared about benefits and didn't ask about anything else, it would only be criticized. Duke Ding's behavior was just to let Lu Qingdi issue an edict to save their face. After all, it was difficult to take the emperor's order. They had obviously gained benefits, but they still pretended that they had no choice. Sun Yijia, including Jingwan, and even Sun Yilin, who had just been involved in the officialdom, only thought that Sun Yijia, who was disfigured, would be abandoned. Who would have thought that Duke Ding would go to such an extent? He didn't give her a way out at all. How bitterly disappointed and sad it was. And this time, it could be regarded as a lesson to them. Never underestimate some people's cold-bloodedness and shamelessness. Unfortunately, they miscalculated one thing. Lu Qingdi was indeed a relatively moderate emperor. He didn't make decisions on the court, nor did he have the ambition to expand the territory of Qi Yuan. However, it didn't mean that he didn't have a temper and would be led by the nose by a group of people. If they really annoyed him, no one would have a good time. Duke Ding, aren't you worried that your daughter won't be able to get married? Fine. Now I'll give my son to you as your son-in-law. I've given you a lot of face. What? Are you dissatisfied with my son, Duke Ding? No, your majesty. Jin Qinhuang is handsome, elegant and elegant. Your daughter, even before her disfigurement, was barely worthy of him. What she looks like now, although I haven't seen it, I can imagine it. Seeing that Duke Ding has always been loyal and devoted, I can't bear to see my beloved officials worry all day long. So I reluctantly set your daughter as Jin Qinhuang's consort. Lu Qingdi put on an attitude that he had suffered a great loss for Duke Ding. He almost directly said, "Son, I've let you down. I've chosen such a Wangfei for you, but I have no choice. Duke Ding is wholeheartedly devoted to the country. I can't chill the officials' hearts, so I can only wrong you to solve my worries for me. Duke Ding, my son is highly talented, knowledgeable, and skilled in both civil and military affairs. Now he wants to marry your daughter. He's sacrificed so much. Don't you feel embarrassed if you don't prepare more dowry for your daughter?" When the courtiers listened to Lu Qingdi's tearful narration, they couldn't help but lower their heads again and again, covering the twitching corners of their mouths. "Your Majesty, can you still have a little face? Even if you praise your son as if he's unparalleled in the heavens, you can't change the fact that he has no good points except for his face. There's also that rotten reputation. Even if you don't like Duke Ding, you have to say that even the disfigured Miss Sun is wrong to marry your son. Also, counting with your fingers, from the time Jin Qinhuang left the palace until now, how many times have you bestowed a marriage? The seventh time, the seventh time. There's no one else who can jinx his wife to this extent. Just because you're the emperor, you can't disregard someone else's daughter's life, right? Also, there's still no news from Jin Qinhuang. Most likely, was he preparing to hold a ghost marriage for Sun Yijia to be the widow? Or what? Even if some people knew the actual situation of Li Hongyuan, they believed that he wouldn't easily get into trouble, so they couldn't argue for Lu Qingdi. Although you praised your son by a fluke, there wasn't a single mistake. His temperament was unpredictable, and his temperament was still acceptable. Even adding on the reputation of jinxing his wife, they were still willing to send their daughters to Jin Qinhuang Fu to serve him. It was only jinxing his wife, not being a legitimate wife was enough, but, alas, sending their own daughters to him would only be a waste, and they wouldn't be able to reap any benefits. It's better not to think about using this method to climb up the ranks. Duke Ding knelt in the main hall. Not to mention that his abacus had fallen through. Lu Qingdi also named him to give a generous dowry to compensate his son. "Beloved minister son," Duke Ding quivered. "This official thanks your majesty for your grace. For my daughter to be able to marry Jin Qinhuang as a consort, it's the good fortune of 3 lifetimes. It's good that beloved minister knows." Lu Qingdi was satisfied. If the people around Li Hongyuan saw the current Lu Qingdi, they would probably be able to find the reason for their master's shamelessness. They were simply father and son in the same vein. Lu Qingdi's sudden imperial edict hadn't been dismissed yet, so the entire harem knew about it. After a moment of shock, some people were completely dumbfounded, while others clapped and laughed. The emperor's move was simply a stroke of genius. Not only did it disrupt the plans of the empress and the eldest prince, but it also made Duke Ding's Fu suffer a double loss. Jin Qinhuang was imperial consort Su's adopted son. The mother and son relationship was deep, so it was absolutely impossible for him to stand on the empress's side. Moreover, Sun Yijia was disfigured. Even if she could successfully marry into Jin Qinhuang Fu, being a living widow was considered light. Jin Qinhuang, who only loved beauties, might hate her. which was equivalent to forming a death grudge. If Duke Ding's defected to Imperial Consort Su's side, the situation could be eased and Sun Yijia could live a better life. However, Duke Ding's was the Empress and the eldest prince's hardcore supporters. The final result was that Sun Yijia was completely reduced to a useless chess piece and no longer had any use. There was also that Sun Yilin, who couldn't stand in the court, but was also the inner court's official in the palace. When he heard about it, he almost broke the brush in his hand. He originally wanted to fight for a chance for his younger sister. Unfortunately, because of that good father of his, he thoroughly angered the emperor. Now it was too late. Everything was too late. Although he had the emperor's favor and trust, it was far from being able to make the emperor take back his order. So hateful, really hateful, Sun Yilin had never regretted it like this. If he didn't back down from the beginning, if he climbed up from the beginning, how could he not have any right to speak now? The veins on his clenched fists were bulging, his teeth were clenched, and his eyes were gloomy as if they were about to drip out. His whole body exuded a malicious aura, which made the little eunuchs serving in the inner court tremble. They only felt that how could the usually genial and elegant Gongzi be so terrifying? Sun Yilin gradually restrained his emotions after a long while. He slightly lowered his head, looked at his palm and whispered, "Good younger sister, just wait. Even if you marry into Jin Qinhuang Fu, I will make sure that Jin Qinhuang doesn't dare to neglect you even a little bit." When Duchess Ding Guoforan learned of this news, her eyes darkened, and she almost fainted, scaring the people who served her. It wasn't easy for her to calm down, but she couldn't stop her tears from falling down. Her poor daughter, ah. These days, she tried to dissuade Duke Dinggua. Her daughter was already so pitiful, she shouldn't really force her into a dead end. However, it was useless. She could only hope that even if the future son-in-law didn't like her daughter, it was fine to let her live her own life in the inner court, as long as he didn't treat her harshly. Now it was all over. Jin Qinhuang, that living king of hell, her daughter might die in his hands one day. Duke, you are so cruel and don't care about the affection between father and daughter. Then from now on, don't blame me for being ruthless. Later, this matter spread all over the capital. Originally, there weren't many people who knew about Sun Yijia's disfigurement. Because of her father's unbridled publicity, not to mention the common people, at least those officials knew about it. Now that they knew that Sun Yijia had such a result, there were fewer people who rejoiced in her misfortune. It was a pity, really a pity. What's a pity? She can still be a Wangfei after being disfigured. I say, her life is especially good. There was no lack of people who said this. But Jin Qinhuang's reputation, and even now, we don't know if he's dead or alive. His Majesty is aware of this situation, and still issued an imperial edict to grant marriage. Then Sun Yijia must be married. It depends on whether she marries a dead person or a living person. But no matter what, she is still a Wangfei. It sounds so majestic. I say, if Jin Qinhuang is really gone, it would be better for Miss Sunday. If he is still alive, I don't know if Miss Sun can safely survive until the day of her marriage. I heard that none of Jin Qinhuang's previous fiancés had a good end. If they didn't die, they were injured, and even their chastity was destroyed. Duchess Ding Guoforan originally didn't intend to send a letter to Sun Yijia, but she would know sooner or later. If she came back and was caught unprepared to face this bad news, it would be better to tell her in advance and let her be mentally prepared. She hardened her heart and personally wrote a letter, letting the servants whip the horse to send it to Bailong Temple. Compared to Li Hongyuan, who used pigeons to send letters, they received the news before the morning court was over. Sun Yijia's side was naturally much slower. She was originally happy, but after Sun Yijia opened the letter and read it, her body went limp and she almost fell to the ground. Jia. Jingwan quickly stepped forward to support her. She saw that her eyes were absent-minded, as if she had lost her soul in an instant. "What's wrong? What happened?" she carefully asked, thinking that Duke Ding Guoforan had caused trouble again. But she didn't get a response from Sun Yijia. Jingwan frowned and reached out to pick up the letter that fell to the ground. Although it was rude to privately read other people's letters, she couldn't care so much now. After a closer look, Jingwan's face also became very unsightly. This letter clearly stated the cause and effect of the marriage. Jingwan, what's wrong? Yuan Xiaoqiao saw them like this and couldn't help but ask anxiously. These days, she got along with Sun Yijia, so their relationship naturally improved by leaps and bounds. They were already close friends. She knew that something big must have happened, so she was very worried. Zhou Shuang also had a face full of doubts. Jingwan looked at Sun Yijia, the pit of her stomach feeling uncomfortable. She opened her mouth with difficulty. Duke Dinggui used Jia Jiji's face injury as an excuse to pretend to be pitiful in an attempt to have His Majesty decree a marriage. He angered His Majesty, so His Majesty bestowed Jia Jejia to Jin Qinhuang. What? Yuan Xiaoqiao and Zhou Shuang were so shocked that they almost sat up. How could this be? Why did it have to be Jin Qinhuang? Even if he is a scholar, he is still a powerful country's Jin Qinhuang. Isn't this pushing Yijia into the fire pit? Jingwan didn't have a comprehensive understanding of the rumors about Jin Qinhuang, but just knowing that was enough to determine that this person was definitely not a good match. She also understood that many things were actually exaggerated, but the 22-year-old Jin Qinhuang didn't have a proper female master in the Fu. This was very clear that there was a problem. Moreover, based on the things he did to her that night, she could basically conclude that there was still a white moonlight in his heart and a cinnabar at the tip of his heart. She was clear about a man's bad nature. The more he couldn't get it, the more he wanted it. And what if that woman appeared again? Once that heart was partial to a woman, it would become unreasonable. Marrying such a person, it would be very difficult to live her own life without caring about anything in the inner courtyard. In order to make room for the person in his heart, perhaps she could do all kinds of crazy things. If Li Hongyuan knew of Jingwan's thoughts, wouldn't he vomit 3 liters of blood? However, Jingwan's last thought was really not wrong. A certain king of hell did a lot of crazy things in order to leave the position of wife unsullied for her. Jingwan held Sun Yijia's shoulder, not knowing how to comfort her. Perhaps the saddest thing in her heart wasn't that she was bestowed a marriage to Jin Qinhuang, but her father's actions. Jia Jiejia, Jin Qinhuang may not be so unbearable, Jingwan said against her heart. Not so unbearable. Yuan Xiaoqiao suddenly became agitated. My good younger cousin, that is because you are not in the capital and do not know that person Jin Qinhuang. Let me tell you, that person Jin Qinhuang is cruel and callous. He eats human flesh, drinks human blood, is greedy for flowers and is lecherous. He does not discriminate between men and women, whether it is hot or cold. As long as it is a beauty, he has his eyes on it. No matter if it is fragrant or stinky, he will get it in his hands. In the capital, there is also another courtyard where he specially keeps beauties. I heard that there are even mother and daughter inside. Just because he has taken a fancy to a married woman, it is not the first or second time that he has caused the family to be ruined and the family to perish. He is also fickle and cold-blooded. Xiaoqiao, shut up. Because Yuan Xiaoqiao raised her voice, it attracted the attention of several Furins on the other side. Hearing Yuan Xiaoqiao's words, Luo Ronghui almost fainted from anger and hurriedly rushed over. Are these words for a girl like you to say? Is Jin Qinhuang something you can talk about? You don't want your life anymore? He poked her forehead hatefully. When did I talk about it? This is clearly something that everyone knows. Why can't I say it? Jin Qinhuang dares to do it. Is he afraid of being talked about? You're still talking. Luo Ronghui wished he could cover her mouth. I cough. Probably because she was too agitated, Yuan Xiaoqiao violently coughed. My little ancestor, quickly stop for a moment. Luo Ronghui hurriedly patted her back and took the water handed over by the maidservant to feed her. Jingwan was also shocked by Yuan Xiaoqiao's explosive news. It wasn't until she heard Yuan Xiaoqiao's coughing that she came back to her senses and hurriedly went forward to appease her. Okay, I know. You calm down a bit. What they didn't know was that Yuan Xiaoqiao's words were coincidentally heard by a certain person who was bored and came to the corner to eavesdrop. Only separated by a few bushes of flowers and trees, Li Hongyuan's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He almost lost his reason and directly went out to strangle Yuan Xiaoqiao to death. Eunuch Mu's shadow guards who were hidden in the dark shrunk their necks and acted like ostriches. They were really afraid that he would take his anger out on them and drag them out to chop them up and feed them to the dogs. This cousin of the future Wang Fei was too daring. Even if it was a fact that everyone knew, she shouldn't say it so bluntly. Moreover, she said it to the future Wang Fei. It didn't matter if her own little life was targeted, but it would implicate others. Li Hongyuan broke a branch with a snap, which naturally alarmed Jingwan and the others. "Who is it?" Nanny Gong scolded and turned to look at the flower bushes. As expected, she met Li Hongyuan's gloomy eyes. She squatted down to greet him. In fact, she had noticed them when they came. After all, Eunuch Mu was not a person who practiced martial arts. Others might be able to hide, but Nanny Gong heard his footsteps clearly. Therefore, Nanny Gong went over as soon as she heard the sound, in case they were discovered by others because they didn't leave immediately. At that time, it would be strange if Li Hongyuan didn't do anything when they were caught talking bad about others. However, he couldn't kill them to silence them. Otherwise, his secret would be exposed. Seeing Li Hongyuan's expression, Nanny Gong felt inexplicably happy and gloated. "Now that you know these things, if you keep it in your heart, you will suffer when you get married in the future. What's more, it's all fake, but it's hard to explain. That kind of grievance, haha." Nanny Gong's expression was clearly seen by Li Hongyuan after they looked at each other for a breath. He turned around and walked away. In just 2 or 3 steps, he disappeared behind another bush of flowers and trees. Therefore, even if Nanny Gong didn't come to check, it was easy for him to not be seen by others. Nanny Gong turned back, and the others looked at her. After all, what Yuan Xiaoqiao said just now was disgraceful. If it was really spread out, it would be no joke. No one. It was just an animal that came in from outside. It stepped on the branch and flashed past. I didn't see what it was. Everyone was relieved. Yuan Xiaoqiao patted her chest with lingering fear. Luo Ronghui poked her forehead again. After that, the Furins also knew the reason for Yuan Xiaoqiao's gaffe. They couldn't help but look at Sun Yijiao with pity and sympathy. "Before coming to Bailong Temple, I heard that Jin Qinhuang was attacked by an assassin." "Mother." Jingwan raised her voice. Yuan Xiaoqiao was frank and outspoken, but now she was naive. None of them were easy to worry about. Moreover, Jin Qinhuang was still alive and well. Zhang Shi shut her mouth in embarrassment. She knew that she said the wrong thing. At this time, Sun Yijia also calmed down a bit. She smiled softly. "Don't worry. No matter how bad it is, it's just like this. If you really care about me, then accompany me more before I get married." That smile was so hurtful, so dazzling. Not long after, Wan Fengfei also received the news. Naturally, it wasn't her father who passed it to her. It was her people who specifically instructed them to pay attention to Jin Qinhuang. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652963. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 82. This was probably the so-called heavens will playing tricks on people. Sun Yijiao was not young anymore, and Li Hongyuan was even more so. In addition, there were always problems with his son's marriage over the years. Several of his younger brothers had already married and had families. Lu Qingdi was also anxious, so after issuing the edict, he directly asked the imperial astronomer to calculate the nearest auspicious date. The result was that it would be next month, 10 days after the imperial examination in spring. Therefore, Lu Qingdi decided to let his evil son get married immediately after the imperial examination in spring. For the imperial court, it could be regarded as a double blessing. As for his son, he hadn't found him yet. It didn't matter. He continued to look for him. Anyway, he firmly believed that he was still alive. If he could make it in time, he would marry himself. If he couldn't, he could use other methods to replace him. When he came back, he would directly consummate the marriage. His son was so beautiful. His future daughter-in-law was disfigured. It didn't matter. Once the light went out, she wouldn't look or touch. After giving birth to a legitimate son, she would have nothing to do with it. As the future princess, how could Sun Yijia not come back yet? Duke Ding, hurry up and bring your daughter back to prepare for the marriage. Lu Qingdi calmly gave out orders one by one. The Ministry of Rites should hurry up with the things that should be done, and the Ministry of Household Affairs should prepare the betrothal gifts. In short, even if you guys are as busy as dogs and exhausted to death, you have to make sure that my son's marriage is done perfectly. It was understandable that he set such a tight schedule. After all, Li Hongyuan was almost a veritable crazy wife killer. However, after Lu Qingdi granted Li Hongyuan a marriage, he seemed to be no longer irritable or worried. Occasionally, he smiled amiably at the ministers and began to set foot in the harem again. He listened to music, enjoyed dancing, and drank fine wine. Nothing was left behind. It really made people look askance, including his close servants, puzzled. Because the contrast was too big, people couldn't help but wonder if Lu Qingdi had something they didn't know. For example, Li Hongyuan had been found a long time ago. The reason why he kept it a secret was because he wanted to use this opportunity to clean up the expanding power in the hands of his sons. He wanted them to know that the person sitting on the dragon throne was still their father. If they dared to think about something they shouldn't think about, no matter who they were, be careful that he would chop off their claws. This speculation was not without basis, because after the marriage decree, Lu Qingdi removed the black gauze of a group of officials. Although until now, they still hadn't found out who was the one who attacked Jin Qinhuang, or perhaps Lu Qingdi already knew. It was just that the murderer was too special. Lu Qingdi still caught a scapegoat, and didn't even pin the crime of stabbing a Qinhuang. And the scapegoat was the same as before. He didn't belong to any side. Most likely, it was to confuse the public. Lu Qingdi's sons were secretly shocked by their father's means. In fact, Lu Qingdi was also very miserable. His men failed to find out the real culprit behind the scenes, and the clues that seemed to be clues vaguely pointed out that his good sons were vaguely involved in the flower market. What could he do? Kill his sons? That was absolutely impossible, not to mention that there was no definite evidence. To let it go so easily? That also couldn't be done. His sons would have suffered in vain, and it would also increase the courage of the person behind the scenes. Thus there was a method that wasn't a method. Jade Essence Palace, Imperial Concubine Su and Li Hongyuan were drinking tea. At first it was quiet and there was almost no sound. Mufei, what is Fu Huang doing? I can't see through his tricks at all. And Li, sixth brother, is he really? Ming nothing will happen to Yuan. Absolutely nothing will happen, do you understand? Imperial Concubine Su stared at Li Hongming, her eyes slightly red. It was obvious that she hadn't rested well recently. It was obvious that she was enduring fear and worry. As if Li Hongming dared to say a bad word, the cup in her hand would be smashed at his head. What was wrong with Lu Qingdi? It was just that Yuaner hadn't been found for a long time. So he probably had some hysteria. Li Hongyuan was too special for Lu Qingdi. The corners of Li Hongming's mouth twitched a little with a bit of unspeakable mockery. But he didn't know who the target of his mockery was. Every time it was related to Li Hongyuan, Mufei always stood on Li Hongyuan's side. Sometimes he wondered if he was actually her adopted son. It had been more than 20 years, Mufei. You really worked hard. Mufei, you're right. How could something happen to sixth brother? Maybe he was saved by someone, and because of an accident, he hasn't been found yet. Imperial Concubine Su's expression eased a little, as if she was comforted by Li Hongming. She held the cup and took a sip, but her hand trembled slightly, and she almost dropped the cup. After the faint smoke, her expression became more and more haggard. That Miss Sun is good in all aspects, but after all, her face is disfigured. I'm worried that your sixth brother won't even be willing to enter the bridal chamber. After all, this time, your imperial father personally granted the marriage. What if he angers your imperial father again? Li Hongming restrained his emotions and chuckled. Mufei, you'd better worry. If sixth brother comes back and finds out that he was granted a disfigured princess, will he directly disobey the edict and make a big fuss? Otherwise, even if he doesn't disobey the edict, what if he sleeps in a brothel on the day of the wedding? It will be a big joke. Imperial concubine Su also rubbed her eyebrows with a headache. That was really something he would do. In the end, she could only smash the broken pot. Anyway, he has offended those he shouldn't have offended, and those he shouldn't have offended. This one doesn't make a difference. I'll discuss with your imperial father, and see if we can choose 2 more beauties to compensate him. Li Hongming thought of the dancer he asked for from Li Hongyuan a few days ago. The taste was really good. Will sixth brother lack beauties? How can that be the same? Those women's statuses are too low. Yuan is right to send them to other courtyards. Their statuses are high, and they are beautiful enough. After going to Sunijia, there seems to be only one left in the big capital. Imperial concubine Su was startled when she heard this. Then she said, don't talk nonsense. Mufei, I'm not talking nonsense. You probably don't know, but Wan Fengfei's marriage has been delayed, just like Sunijia. It's not because Grand Elder Wan is picky, but because Wan Fengfei admires sixth brother. Li Hongming's lips curled up. He was in a good mood when talking about this. Is this true? Imperial concubine Su asked in disbelief. Of course it's true. In fact, regarding this matter, if one paid attention, they would more or less know about it. Why didn't I pay attention before? Li Hongming was obviously annoyed that he only found out about such an important matter 2 days ago. Do you know why Miss Wan is coincidentally at White Dragon Temple? It's said that after hearing that sixth brother was punished, she followed. If it wasn't for the people sent to White Dragon Temple accidentally finding out, we would still be in the dark. Fortunately, it's not too late to find out now. I just don't know if my brothers also found out about this matter. Ming you want to? It's probably because Grand Elder Wan is suppressing it, so it didn't come out. Otherwise, Wan Fengfei and sixth brother might even have a child. Since I'm interested, why not add fuel to the fire? If Grand Elder Wan becomes sixth brother's father-in-law, could it be that he will cut ties with us? Grand Elder Wan isn't an easy person to deal with. Moreover, if his beloved daughter becomes a concubine, it's possible that he won't be able to rope her in, and might even become enemies. If everything comes from Miss Ruan's own hands, and she's willing, Sunijia obviously won't be liked by sixth brother, and will only exist in name. If Wan Fengfei enters Jin Qinwang Fu, she will definitely be at Cifei. Other than that, she will be the true mistress. As long as sixth brother doesn't have a second Cifei, no one can be on equal footing with her, let alone be above her. The possibility that Wan Fengfei won't agree is too low. If you want to talk about looks, it's just taking advantage. Sixth brother can also be favored by a fairy-like girl like Wan Fengfei. Like Yuan. What's wrong with Yuan? What's wrong with him? Imperial concubine Su immediately said in dissatisfaction. Yes, sixth brother is your heart. In your eyes there's nothing bad about him. Li Hongming said rather helplessly. Do as you see fit. Be careful. If you mess it up, it's not a joke. Don't worry, Mufei. I know how powerful it is. Imperial concubine Su paused. Also, tell your sixth brother in advance. Mufei is really thinking about sixth brother's feelings all the time, sending him a beauty and asking if he's willing. Imperial concubine Su cast a sidelong glance at him. Okay, Ken knows. As for whether he would do it or not, that was another matter. That sixth brother of his was a natural rebel. If he told him, he might ruin the plan. Besides, the one who acted was Wan Fengfei. Even if he wanted to flare up, he couldn't find it on his head. Imperial concubine Su glanced at him, and didn't say anything. At this time, a palace servant hurriedly came to report. Nyang Wangya. Wang Fei sent someone to report that Qian Shijia is having a fit, and is about to give birth. Li Hongming didn't have any reaction, but Imperial concubine Su was slightly startled, and almost dropped her teacup. However, she quickly calmed down, except for the slight abnormality in her eyes. Okay, don't stay here anymore. Leave the palace as soon as possible. After the child is born, just send someone to report to me. How could Li Hongming not know what his Mufei was thinking? Although he got married relatively late, it had been several years, and he only had 2 legitimate daughters. There weren't many women in his harem, but there weren't few either. He had a lot of work to do, so he didn't have much time to go to the harem. But even so, there shouldn't be no movement in the harem except for Wang Fei. But in reality, his Wang Fei really didn't do anything to the women in the harem. Qianshi was personally picked by his virtuous Wang Fei. Out of respect for his Wang Fei, she only slept with him for a few nights. Unexpectedly, she really got pregnant. Imperial concubine Su looked indifferent on the surface. No one knew what she was thinking, but Li Hongming knew it all too well. Their brothers ranked in the top 10, except for the long-dead 2nd and 8th, the unmarried 6th, as well as the recently married 9th and 10th, including the sickly 5th, all had sons. He was the only one who didn't. Just from this point his confidence was much weaker. In a situation where many princes were married, it was basically impossible to let a childless prince be the crown prince. Imperial concubine Su could compete with the empress, but when it came to grandchildren, she couldn't raise her head. Therefore, imperial concubine Su actually cared a lot about Qianshi's child. In comparison, Li Hongming didn't really care because he knew very well that in this life-and-death battle, it wasn't important at all whether he had a son or not. According to normal circumstances, the throne couldn't be his. This was destined from the beginning, so why should he waste so much time on those women? When he ascended the throne in the future, he could have any woman he wanted, and as many sons as he wanted. Then this official will withdraw first. Li Hongming had just left the palace and got on the carriage when his personal attendant told him, "Wang Ye, Jin Qinhuang has been found, Shangyan." Oh, he's really lucky. Regardless of whether Li Hongyuan was alive or dead, Li Hongming didn't have much of a reaction. However, he knew from his Mufei's words and actions that Li Hongyuan being alive was far more beneficial than harmful to him. Therefore, even though he really wanted him to die, he still hoped that he would live until Liqing Emperor passed away, live until he successfully ascended the throne. Li Hongming knew that there were things he didn't know. However, on the surface, Li Hongyuan made enemies on all sides, and even if he was messing with him, he didn't show any mercy. But overall, the losses he caused to others were far greater than him. The trouble he created for him might have made people gnash their teeth in hatred at the time. But in reality, it didn't matter. Tell Ben Wang the details. Yes, after Jin Qinhuang was injured and fell into the water, he was fished out by a large white ape not long after. Wait, large white ape? Are you sure? Li Hongming asked incredulously. The news from White Dragon Temple indeed said so. Many people have seen that large white ape. It's taller than a person, and has extraordinary strength. It's said that the large white ape was raised by a traveling doctor. That person just happened to enter White Dragon Mountain to pick herbs some time ago. That white ape might have stayed with the traveling doctor for a long time. Not to mention that it understood human nature. It could also help. I heard that it wasn't the first time it saved someone. The large white ape followed them into the mountain. Perhaps it recovered some of its original nature and scuttled all over the mountain. When it saw Jin Qinhuang who had fallen into the water, it brought him back. That traveling doctor's temperament was strange, and he didn't fear the powerful. He clearly saw that Jin Qinhuang's identity was not ordinary, but he didn't interrupt the journey. Instead, he let the large white ape carry Jin Qinhuang into the depths of the mountain. Thus, Jin Qinhuang didn't follow the river downstream. The people sent by His Majesty couldn't find Jin Qinhuang. When that traveling doctor returned from picking herbs, Jin Qinhuang followed him out. The injuries on his body were already much better. In that case, Ben Wang's 6 brothers' luck really isn't ordinary. There's no problem with that traveling doctor's identity? Replying to Wang Ye, there's no problem. Many people have seen him, especially those poor commoners. Many people have received his kindness. Li Hongyuan pondered. Right now, he wasn't sure if it was the truth, or if everything was arranged by his Fu Huang, so that Li Hongyuan could reasonably appear in front of people. If it was the latter, then this line was arranged too long. His Fu Huang was able to predict the future to this extent? After thinking about it carefully, Li Hongming was more inclined towards the former. Where is sixth brother? Where is he now? Replying to Wang Ye, Jin Qinhuang is currently recuperating at White Dragon Temple. It's not known when he will return. His wedding is next month. There are still many things that require him to be busy. He won't stay at White Dragon Temple for too long. That's right. Does he know that Fu Huang has bestowed a marriage to him? Perhaps he knows, or perhaps no one told him. After all, the imperial edict wasn't directly sent to White Dragon Temple. Ben Wang had forgotten. Ben Wang's future sixth sister-in-law is also at White Dragon Temple. Also, Wan Fangfei. Li Hongyuan smiled with interest. These two people should already know about this marriage. Sun Yijia might be completely disheartened, but Wan Fangfei's heart was full of admiration for the man that Sun Yijia didn't want to marry. Bumping into each other like this, even a woman like Wan Fangfei would be jealous, right? Once this kind of jealousy accumulated, it would be very easy to carry out some of his plans, if he were to provoke her a little. The people in the plan were all at White Dragon Temple. That was a good place to carry out the plan. Unfortunately, it was already too late. If he knew about this earlier, it would be good. Next time, it wouldn't be so easy to find such a good opportunity. However, where there's a will, there's a way. Haste makes waste, especially when Fu Huang's body was still very healthy. He still had time to make arrangements. Wang Ye, the road ahead is blocked. What's the matter? Go take a look. Yes. The guard who went to inquire soon returned. Wang Ye, the carriage of great elder princess Wangzhu collided with that of Luo Shangshu's granddaughter. Luo Shangshu's granddaughter? Do you know who she is? Li Hongming thought of the Luo family's third daughter last time. Wang Ye, it's the fourth daughter of the Luo family. Li Hongming pondered for a moment, got up, lifted the curtain, and got out of the carriage in person. What's the matter? Third cousin. The curtain of the carriage with the mark of great elder princess's mansion was lifted, revealing a 7 or 8-year-old girl. Third cousin, why are you here? Yu Yao. Li Hongming reached out to touch her head. Cousin has something to do, and has to go back. What's the matter? The girl immediately pouted her mouth discontentedly, lifted the curtain wider, and motioned Li Hongming to look inside the carriage. The carriage broke my colored glass lamp. I came out today to get this lamp. I was going to give it to my mother as a birthday gift. Li Hongming saw that the beautiful colored glass lamp in the carriage was indeed broken in a corner, and then glanced at the pitiful figure in front of the carriage, biting her lips. Her clothes were not bad. Luo Shangshu's family was rich, but as far as he knew, the fourth daughter was the daughter of a concubine of Luo Shangshu, who was not very favored by Luo Shangshu, so their family was not very rich. This lamp cost at least 2,000 or 3,000 taels of silver. In addition, it seemed that the son of a concubine of Luo Shangshu was very close to his eldest brother's people. Li Hongming's mind had already turned a few times. At this moment, he saw that the girl was looking at him with expectant eyes. Li Hongming smiled comfortingly, and then turned to old lady Yu Yao. This thing is very precious. It will break if you touch it. The carriage is not a good place to play with it. This girl definitely did not do it on purpose. How about this? Cousin will give you a more beautiful one. And for cousin's sake, let's forget about this matter. How about it? Old lady Yu Yao was still hesitant. A qualified noble lady should be magnanimous. Okay, but cousin, remember to give me the colored glass lamp. Okay, I'll send it to you later. Li Hongming smiled gently. Then cousin, I'll go back first. I've been out for a long time. Mother will be worried. Okay, please send my regards to Aunt. I've been busy recently. I'll pay my respects to Aunt on her birthday. Old lady Yu Yao nodded. After sending old lady Yu Yao away, Li Hongming took 2 steps towards Luo Jingying. Luo Jingying hurriedly saluted. Greetings to Wang Ye. No need to be so polite. Li Hongming raised his hand. Miss, are you hurt? Thank you, Wang Ye. Chenu is fine. Li Hongming nodded. Go back early. It's best to have a doctor take a look. Luo Jingying whispered a yes. Wang Ye, Chenu will find a way to compensate Wang Ye for the colored glass lamp. Will Ben Wang be short of a colored glass lamp? Go back early. Li Hongming turned and got into the carriage. When the curtain of the carriage was put down, he saw Luo Jingying staring at him in a daze. He smiled softly. Unsurprisingly, he saw the other party blushing shyly. When the curtain fell, the smile on his face carried a bit of pride and sarcasm. Pride because he was always successful with women. But the irony was that these women were all the same. Li Hongming returned to the Rui Prince mansion. Although he didn't care if he had a son or not, it would be good to have one. After all, some of the officials who followed him had some opinions on this point. He didn't go overboard, but still asked indifferently. Knowing that it would take a long time, Li Hongming turned and went to the study. He would inform him when the child was born. Princess Rui was waiting outside the delivery room. Knowing that her Wangya wouldn't come, she didn't feel happy but rather sad. She had been married to Prince Rui for a few years now, and everyone knew that they were deeply in love with each other. Being able to marry Prince Rui was a blessing accumulated from 8 lifetimes. The Gong Prince's mansion looked peaceful and quiet. But that was because the Gong Prince was afraid of his father-in-law. The Gong Qin princess consort looked like she was living a happy life. But who knew how bitter it was inside? She was the best. Prince Rui was full of wisdom, an elegant gentleman, kind and capable, and was valued by the emperor, so he was very considerate to her. Princess Rui had a smile on her face, but her heart was bitter. Prince Rui didn't have much of a smile when he returned to the mansion. He was always busy. Rather than saying that he didn't get close to women, it was better to say that he didn't have time. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652965. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bikago mobile reading website mbicken.com. Chapter 83. Master, concubine Xian has given birth to a young commandery princess. Li Hongming's close servant heard the noise outside the study and went out quietly. He came back quickly, but he was very careful when he spoke, for fear of making his master unhappy. Not to mention the masters. Even the servants hoped that the baby would be a young master. Many people said that it would most likely be a boy. Why didn't they bring a son? I know. Let the princess arrange it. Do what you need to do. Li Hongming continued to write something. His expression didn't change from beginning to end, and he didn't raise his head. The speed of his writing was the same. Send someone to the palace to inform imperial concubine mother. Yes. Seeing that their master wasn't angry, they were relieved, but at the same time, they felt a little cold in their hearts. Outsiders said that they followed a good master. In fact, their master wasn't so easy to serve. Perhaps his gentleness and elegance were all used up outside the manor. It was rare to see him smile in the manor, and he was never soft-hearted to those who made mistakes. After noble consort Su got the news, she paused for a moment, and there was a trace of disappointment in her eyes. Then she put it away, and let the servants around her give out the things they prepared. After that, she didn't do anything. When Qianshi was pregnant, she could be said to be a treasure in the palm of the hand. If she could give birth to a son, she would still be a treasure. It was a pity that she gave birth to a daughter. Thus, other than the reward that was far below the norm, she did not receive anything. The promised position of concubine Qian was gone, and she still had to raise the debt collector, who brought all these disasters to her. Originally, when she was still in the belly, she was told that if she gave birth to a son, he would be taken away, but she would be given the title of concubine Qian. She believed that she was pregnant with a son, so she put on the airs of concubine Qian. There were many people in the manor who flattered her, and they were disrespectful to Princess Rui. At that time, Princess Rui was very tolerant of her. Qian often scolded Princess Rui behind her back, saying that she was a hen that couldn't lay eggs and wanted to rob her son. She even planned to get her son back when she got the position of concubine. She also planned that if their prince ascended the throne, her son would be the eldest son, and then the emperor, and then she would be the noblest woman in the world. The child was still by her side, but her treatment directly fell from the clouds to the dust. The people who surrounded her all left in a flash. During confinement, she still had to eat leftovers. If she threw a tantrum and smashed things, she wouldn't even have anything to eat. The people in the kitchen sneered. That was the princess consort's kindness. The concubine's stomach, unfortunately, she didn't have that fortune. She only had the life of a concubine. She still wanted the same treatment as the princess consort. Was she dreaming? And those women who were envious of her all came to ridicule her. She used to be arrogant because of her belly, but now she was trampled on miserably. She shouted to see the prince. Unfortunately, even if she shouted until her throat was hoarse, no one paid attention to her. Then she cursed all kinds of things, and was no surprise that her mouth was blocked. She was weak after giving birth. After this, she suffered from postpartum hemorrhage. She was about to die, but no one even called a doctor for her. Before she died, she forced herself to stand up and used her last breath to grab the swaddling clothes that she didn't like and threw far away. She didn't know when the crying stopped. It was less than 24 hours from the time she gave birth to the day she died. Princess, concubine Qian suffered from postpartum hemorrhage and died. Young commandery princess is weak, so she also died. Princess Rui was stunned for a moment. Bury her. Send more things to the Qian family. Tell the Ministry of Personnel to mention it to anyone in the Qian family. Prince concubine Qian suffered from postpartum hemorrhage and died. Young commandery princess is weak, so she also died. Li Hongming still didn't raise his head. Just report it to the princess. Why do you tell me? Princess, concubine Qian suffered from postpartum hemorrhage and died. Young commandery princess is weak, so she also died. Noble consort Su fiddled with the bracelet on her hand and said carelessly, she is unlucky. But she met a filial daughter. Knowing that she was lonely, she went to accompany her. If noble consort Su didn't make it so obvious when she rewarded things, even if it was a little bit more generous. If Li Hongyuan told her to take care of herself, after giving birth, and rewarded her casually. If Princess Rui left a little order to leave some people behind to stop the other concubines at the mountain gate, and to hug the young commandery princess when they knew it was her, then Qianshi wouldn't have died, and that poor child wouldn't have been thrown to the side to fend for himself, without even drinking a mouthful of milk. In the end, it was because these people were used to being aloof and regarded human lives as grass. They could ignore and do nothing for people who didn't benefit them. Princess Rui still felt pity for a woman like Qianshi, but that was it. She wouldn't find trouble for herself because of that bit of pity, and extend a helping hand. No matter how pitiful and sad they were, they couldn't escape the fact that they stole her husband, and could threaten her child at any time. At the same time, Jin Qinhuang returned to the capital. Unlike when they left the capital, they returned with great momentum. In addition to the Qinhuang's ceremonial guards, there were also thousands of guards. Along the way, the people who were watching the excitement were addicted to their eyes. Although they were isolated by the guards, their interest didn't diminish at all. They didn't know who was in the carriage. Even at the foot of the Son of Heaven, there was still an insurmountable chasm between these ordinary people and those in power. Even those who knew the symbols of the families of the various officials and nobles in the capital, even those who understood Jin Qinhuang's character, only dared to secretly spit and didn't dare to brazenly show it. Jingwan's carriage followed behind and was also within the protection of the guards. It looked like Jin Qinhuang's family. When they left White Dragon Temple, they found out that Jin Qinhuang, who was assassinated, was also returning to the capital. Among the four of them, before this, only Jingwan knew that he was assassinated, including Sun Yijia. Duchess Ding never mentioned it to her. It wasn't until Sun Yijia received the news of her marriage, and Zhangshi inadvertently mentioned it, that they found out. Soon after, Jin Qinhuang was found and White Dragon Temple was placed under martial law. Because of the martial law, the matter became more and more conspicuous. In front of White Dragon Temple, the two sides faced each other. His face was expressionless, his eyes were cold, and he stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Even if he had an incomparably handsome face, it still made people shudder. In addition to that unapproachable aura, people didn't dare to rashly approach him. Yuan Xiaoqiao, who spoke ill of him 2 days ago, always felt that his gaze clearly fell on her body, like a poisonous snake that made people's hair stand on end. Sun Yijia calmly looked at him, and didn't have the slightest intention of covering up the white cloth on her face. However, when she met his eyes, Sun Yijia understood that he already knew about the marriage between them. She couldn't see his opinion on this marriage from his face. However, it didn't matter, right? Zhou Shuang couldn't see anything, but that didn't mean that she couldn't feel the cold atmosphere around her. She couldn't help but shrink her body and didn't dare to breathe. The faces of the Furins were also not so good. Only Jingwan was affected the least by him. However, she still inexplicably felt that his gaze contained a deep meaning. It was very easy to understand. She was perhaps the only outsider who understood the real situation after his injury, and was also the one who bluntly refused to enter Jin Qinhuang Fu. During these days of waiting for Li Hongyuan's decision, Jingwan's heart was actually still somewhat apprehensive. However, when she heard about his rather legendary rescue process, Jingwan knew that the matter of her intimate skin contact with him had already been completely overturned. However, through this matter, Jingwan also saw many more things. This Jin Qinhuang might not be like the rumors, blindly relying on the emperor's favor, and only pursuing an extravagant and unfettered life. He had no power, and didn't fight for power, because he knew that she might have touched on something that shouldn't be touched. To a certain extent she, including the Luo family, feared that they couldn't be separated from this Jin Qinhuang. The more you know, the faster you will die. If you don't want to die, then think of a way to make the other party trust you, even to the extent of treating you as a confidant. However, Jingwan didn't regret telling this matter to her grandmother, and indirectly told her grandfather. Even if she told Jin Qinhuang that she didn't mention anything about saving him to anyone, the other party might not believe it. If he took this opportunity to secretly find the Luo family, then she could only rely on her grandfather to deal with it. Also, because of that different state of mind, she wasn't frightened by his imposing manner. Jingwan actually felt the imposing manner of a monarch descending to the world from his body. She had never seen the emperor's face, and didn't know what kind of aura the so-called dragon's face in heavens might had. Her feelings told her that what Li Hongyuan wanted her to see was it. Jingwan very naturally moved her gaze away. However, it was at this moment that she inadvertently saw Wan Fangfei on the other side. She clearly saw the way she looked at Li Hongyuan. If Jingwan was only a 14-year-old girl born and raised here, she probably wouldn't understand what that was. However, she wasn't. She was very clear on what that represented: infatuation, possession, and even the desire to control. Jingwan couldn't help but tremble slightly. What about the lotus flower that emerged from the water? Would a normal girl have these kinds of feelings for such a terrifying man like Jin Qinhuang? If it was only admiration and infatuation, then it was fine. After all, he was a Qinhuang and also had a good appearance. But possession and control, the depth of love might make one want to possess. Then what was it that made her want to control? That was already a psychological distortion that was somewhat perverted, okay? Was there some terrifying secret hidden in the Grand Secretary Ruan Daren's backyard? Otherwise, how could he raise such a strange girl? Or was it that Wan Fangfei was really like what she thought? Did she really have a past life, and that she herself was a pervert? Where Jingwan was present, the attention that Li Hongyuan gave to others was absolutely charity. Of course, he would control himself. Even if all of his attention was on her, he would not let others notice. With a so-called fiancé present, and an abnormal Wan Fangfei present, letting others discover where his mind was, wouldn't that push Wan to the forefront of the storm? With such attention, how could Li Hongyuan not notice the subtle changes in Jingwan? Following her line of sight, he swept a glance and without stopping, he waved his sleeves and boarded the carriage. His movements were too fast and too sudden, making the brothers who came to pick up their younger sister slightly hesitate. After some hesitation, they went up the mountain to pay their respects, and fell into an awkward position. Wan Fangfei's performance, how could Li Hongyuan not know? In his previous life, although Wan Fangfei also admired him, and did some things that ordinary people would not do, it was far from the extent that it was now. The worse his reputation was, the worse it was. The more she liked it, the more she wanted to get close to him, the more she wanted to control him. Ah, such an arrogant and conceited woman. After she was no longer useful, how should he tidy her up to make people feel more comfortable? For people with dark hearts, there were two kinds of people in this world that were the most attractive. One was people who were similar to themselves because they understood each other and could often reach a mutual understanding. The other was people who walked on the opposite end of the spectrum. They had something that people who walked in the dark hated, but also yearned for. Although Li Hongyuan was not completely a person who walked in the dark, he was not lonely, he was not depraved, and he had not been swallowed up and lost himself. He was very clear about what he was doing, and was even more clear about what he needed. However, he could not be considered a normal person. He had no interest in people like Wan Fangfei. That kind of pure and flawless woman was also not his goal. He was firm, obsessed, and there was only one. If those eyes of Wan Fangfei appeared in Wan's eyes, try to imagine that scene. Li Hongyuan suddenly curled up his body and trembled slightly. That was his body's instinctive desire, excitement and clamor. He did not seem to care at all that he had stripped himself completely, allowing her to easily control him. Jingwan, who turned to get into the carriage, inexplicably felt her hair go numb, as if there was danger approaching in the dark. She could not help but frown. Could it be that something was going to happen again? Eunuch Mu was also not feeling any better. After his master saw Miss Luo, why did he start to go crazy for no reason? Master, take it easy. There are so many people around. If they hear you, your reputation. Eunuch Mu suddenly lowered his head helplessly. His master's reputation couldn't be worse. He lowered his head and pretended to be dead. He also pretended not to see the strange expressions of the people closest to the carriage. Because it was inconvenient for each of them, they did not squeeze into the same carriage on the return journey. With apprehension, Jingwan's mood was taut all the way, fearing that something unexpected would happen again. However, until they entered the city gate, everything was safe and sound. Jingwan was puzzled. Could it be that the bad feeling was not directed at them? But Jingwan's gaze turned to the front, although she could only see the curtain blocking the carriage door. Could it be that after failing to put him to death once, they dared to assassinate him again in today's situation? Previously, it was not possible at Bailong Temple, and it was even more impossible under this heavy guard. If they really took the risk to this extent, did it mean that the threat of Jean Prince Li Hongyuan was far beyond imagination? Until the carriages of each family separated, until Jingwan entered the Luo family's gate, nothing happened. Could it be that something went wrong? But that lingering feeling of danger was still there. Jingwan lowered her head and fiddled with the small red sandalwood prayer beads on her wrist. Each bead was round and smooth. Her mother saw that she had one accident after another, and in addition to her grandmother's special instructions, she went to Great Master Liao Chen to ask for it. Jingwan knew that the value of this string of prayer beads was not as simple as Great Master Liao Chen personally consecrating it. The original small red sandalwood beads were not low in age, and after being made into prayer beads, it was at least 200 years old. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was priceless, but Great Master Liao Chen easily gave it to her. What did Great Master Liao Chen say at that time? She had fate with it. It could drive away evil spirits, avoid disasters, and protect her safety, so she must not give it to others. Jingwan fiddled with the prayer beads one by one, and her heart suddenly calmed down. If it was a blessing, it was not a disaster. If it was a disaster, it could not be avoided, so thinking too much was useless. Jingwan went to the main courtyard to pay her respects to old Madame Luo. Seeing that Jingwan's complexion was good and her spirit was also good, she was relieved. After all, she had just returned, so old Madame Luo did not keep her long and let her go back to rest. As she passed by the garden, Jingwan saw Luo jingling in a cluster of flowers. She was tugging at the petals from time to time, and her eyes were unfocused. Jingwan was right in front of her, but she did not react at all. Suddenly, she laughed foolishly, and it felt like she was in a dream. Jingwan did not know what expression to show. She had only been away for a few days, Why was her sworn enemy already in love the moment she returned? Luo Jingying's servant girl saw the way Jingwan was looking at her young lady, and could not help it. Risking being punished, she gently tugged at Luo Jingying's clothes. Young lady, what are you doing? Luo Jingying glared at the servant girl angrily. Before Luo Jingying could act up, the servant girl pointed in the direction of Jingwan. Luo Jingying looked over and was stunned. Then she remembered that her appearance just now seemed to have been seen by Jingwan. She was annoyed and angry, but she did not flare up. Instead, she smiled softly. It turns out that third older sister is back. Hello, third older sister. She greeted politely without being perfunctory or neglectful. Jingwan returned the greeting unhurriedly. Third older sister just came back. You must be tired. I won't disturb you. Jingwan looked at Luo Jingying's back as she left. She did not find fault with her, and even her words were not strange. If it was too normal, it would be too abnormal. Granny, what do you think she's up to this time? Jingwan asked. I think it's because fourth young lady has some thoughts. She is quiet, and does not want to be disturbed. Naturally, she will be peaceful. Jingwan sighed in her heart. The power of love was really strong. She did not know which family he was from. However, the man who could make Luo Jingying fall in love with him was probably not ordinary. He might even be a member of the imperial family. It had nothing to do with her. As long as she had the ability, even if she became a favorite concubine of the imperial harem, Jingwan would not raise her eyelids. Back to Begonia House, Jingwan asked the wet nurse about what had happened these days. In addition to the big events in the city, the most lively thing in the backyard of the Luo family was probably the third branch. From the moment Luo Rongping blatantly protected Huan Yang, Mrs. Lu basically had a falling out with him. Relying on Madame Luo's support, she directly attacked Huan Yang. Relying on her status as the mistress of the house, she had no scruples about torturing a concubine. She was really bold and unrestrained. It was precisely because she used all her means on the surface. It was simple and crude. Huan Yang, who was better at dirty tricks, really didn't have much power to resist. The most important thing was that she was limited by her status. What Mrs. Lu could do she couldn't. If she dared to do it, Mrs. Lu dared to directly sell her, or even beat her to death. Huan Yang had all kinds of grievances, but she was extremely tolerant. She did whatever Mrs. Lu asked her to do. Anyway, she didn't let Mrs. Lu catch her. She didn't even tell Luo Rongping that she was bullied by Mrs. Lu. Her image of compromise was to the extreme. Many servants couldn't stand it. After all, Huan Yang was pregnant. Mrs. Lu looked at them coldly. She naturally knew what the servants were saying behind her back, but she did not say anything about it. She even let these words spread, until all her deeds were known by Luo Rongping. Then Luo Rongping naturally found Mrs. Lu. As a result, an unprecedented quarrel broke out between the husband and wife. Then Luo Rongping saw Mrs. Lu's hidden madness and ruthlessness. Mrs. Lu even almost scratched Luo Rongping's face, but because he dodged, his neck was injured. Luo Rongping even said that he wanted to divorce his wife. Mrs. Lu gloomily stared at him. Luo Rongping, do you dare to divorce your wife? I'll divorce you right now, you jealous woman. Luo Rongping, if you dare to write a letter of divorce, as soon as you leave the Luo family's house, I will beat the drum. You. Luo Rongping was shocked. He did not expect that Mrs. Lu would dare to do such a thing. How dare you? Why don't I dare? If you dare to bring back a slut to climb on top of my head, I dare to drag the whole Luo family to death. You are crazy. Luo Rongping flicked his sleeves and left. Mrs. Lu coldly stared at the direction Luo Rongping left. I am crazy. I am driven crazy by you. The drum was not rung unless the country was destroyed. It was not rung unless the army was victorious. It was not rung unless the country was destroyed. It was not rung unless the country was destroyed. It was not rung unless the army was victorious. It was not rung unless the world's injustice was done. There were no guards guarding the drum, so anyone could rung it. However, if it was rung casually, the whole family would be demoted to a criminal slave and sent to the border. If it was rung casually, the whole family would be exterminated. just because of a dispute in the backyard. Luo Peishan was a minister of the Ministry of Rights. Luo Rongping was afraid to shoot the rat for fear of breaking the vases. He had to go back to appease his little wife. He told her not to pay attention to Mrs. Lu. Mrs. Lu didn't need to send someone to look for her. Huan Yang quietly listened. From time to time, she would comfort Luo Rongping with a few words. The man was unreliable, so she could only rely on herself. Therefore, Huan Yang shrank in the courtyard and did not go out. She had nothing else, she just had a little money. If she couldn't buy someone with 10 taels of silver, she would spend 100 taels. If Mrs. Lu was not easy to deal with, she would lay her hands on her son. Back and forth, fighting openly and covertly. It was simply too lively. Rung the drum? Third aunt really can't be underestimated. Mama, is there really no one guarding the drum? There wasn't before, but it has been there since 6 years ago. It's just that the people are in the innermost layer, and the people outside can't see it. Why? It was impossible for there to be no reason for the sudden increase in guards. Mama Gong paused, because Jin Qin Wang, who had just left the palace, was bored and climbed the drum tower. He almost rung the drum. Since then His Majesty ordered people to guard the drum tower. Jin Qin Wang. Jingwan was speechless. It's reasonable to say that there shouldn't be many people who know about this. How did Mama know? I accidentally heard it when I was in the palace. Luo Jingying returned to the third branch. After her father and mother had a big quarrel, her father never appeared in the main courtyard of the third branch. Today, he was unexpectedly here and had sent all the servants out. Luo Jingying was worried that they would quarrel again, so she went in regardless of being stopped. Prince Kong is destined by the heavens. If Inger can marry him. Digression. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652966. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bikugo mobile reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 84. Prince Kong is destined by the heavens. If Inger can marry him and become his consort, when he ascends the throne in the future, our Inger will be the mother of the world. In this way, who would dare to look down on our third branch? As the Guizhong, he should at least be a marquis. Luo Rongping held a teacup and raised his eyes to look at Lucier. If Inger can win over the emperor's heart and whisper pillow talk, even if your Lu family can't recover its former glory, at least it will make the Bofu look the same as it was in the past, and have infinite glory. Lucier clenched the handkerchief in her hand, not because of anger, but because of excitement. Luo Rongping looked at her with slanted eyes and sneered in his heart. If there was a real knot in Lucier's heart, it wasn't in the Luo family, nor was it in her children. It was her own birth. She was born in a poor family, but she wanted to become a proud daughter of heaven. If she could make the Lu family rise again and fundamentally raise her status, perhaps she would do her best and be more unscrupulous than planning for her children's future. Think about it carefully. If this matter succeeds, our son's future won't have to worry at all. With an older sister who is the empress, even if they are dandy for the rest of their lives, no one will dare to provoke them. They will have wind and rain. Them? We don't even know what's in that slut's belly. But you're sure it's a son? Now you're thinking about sharing my daughter's glory? Inger only has one younger brother. I'm telling you, Luo Rongping, no one else can get close to her. Oh, is that so? Then you go and do this matter yourself. I want to see how capable Luo Lucier, who is awe-inspiring in the inner courtyard of the Luo family, is to help her daughter to the position of Prince Kang's consort. Although Luo Rongping's expression was indifferent, he had a high and mighty attitude. Even if Mrs. Lu could threaten him, so what? Outside it was a man's world. You can't do anything just because you're mad. Mrs. Lu gritted her teeth in hatred, but this matter was different. Mrs. Lu couldn't ignore it. Even if she didn't compromise, Luo Rongping wouldn't ignore it. After all, after this matter was settled, it would be very beneficial to him. He could become the most powerful person among his brothers, and his father-in-law would treat him differently. Luo Rongping knew the knot in her heart. How could she not know that in addition to his ambition for power, he had buried his deepest thoughts in his heart? However, this man's heart was now on that B***TCH. Who knew if he would do something unreasonable? What do you want? You don't have to care about Huan Yang. It's best if she goes her own way, and you go your own way. Mrs. Lu showed an expression, as if she had expected it. Luo Rongping now cared about that woman. If they really went their own way, not to mention that she would lose face, the entire third branch's life would not be as good as that B***TCH's. Life was already tight. In this way, they wouldn't get anything except for the things in the family. How could they have the face to go out? No, at most I won't make things difficult for her. Don't even think about it. And since you're thinking about you naturally can't lack clothes and jewelry. I don't have money in my hands. What should I do? You can decide. Mrs. Lu gathered her hair. He knew that Mrs. Lu's purpose was not as simple as buying clothes and jewelry for his daughter. The most important thing was to ask him for money. However, her excuse was understandable. I'll have someone send the money later. But you'd better remember what you said. If anything happens to Huan Yang and the child in her belly, you'll be the only one responsible. Luo Jingying didn't expect that she would hear such a thing when she directly broke in. It would be a lie to say that she wasn't excited. Being the mother of the country was something that many women dreamed of. Her mother always said that she was unspeakably noble. If she really reached that step, she would really be unspeakably noble. However, Luo Jingying thought of the gentle, handsome, and elegant third prince, Prince Rui. He was obviously better than Prince Kong in all aspects. He was obviously more like an emperor. Even if he suffered a little loss in identity, in the real battle for the throne, how many people could become the final winner based on birth? No, she had to make her father change his mind. Luo Jingying clenched her fists, took a deep breath, and walked into the door in a dignified manner. Father, mother, why are you here? Not to mention Luo Rongping. Even Mrs. Lu's face was not very good. Father, mother, daughter heard what you said just now. Mrs. Lu, is this the good daughter you taught? Eavesdropping on her parents' conversation? Luo Rongping stared at Mrs. Lu with a gloomy face. There was still no sign of this matter. If this evil daughter of his shouted out, not only would it not succeed, but it would also make him lose face and become a laughing stock. Father, don't be angry and don't blame mother. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I was just worried about you, so I broke in. Can you listen to what I have to say? Luo Jingying crossed her hands in front of her body and stood upright. She spoke calmly, not in a hurry. This kind of girl, not to mention Luo Rongping. Even Mrs. Lu was a little surprised. She was not impatient, she was not rash, she was not reckless, she was not reckless. This was her ideal daughter. Could it be that this was the result of correcting her in the past few days? If she knew this would happen, she would have been ruthless earlier. Master, after all, this matter concerns my daughter's life. Since she heard it, why don't you listen to what she has to say? If there is something good about her, she may be of some use. If not, you can teach her well. Luo Rongping was silent for a moment. If he really helped his daughter to the position of Princess Kong, it would definitely not do if she did not know anything. Even if she was to be an understanding flower, she had to at least understand what her man was saying. If she was just a vase, no matter how beautiful she was, there would be a day when she would grow old. Moreover, for the group of men in the imperial family, they had seen countless women, and there were not many who were not beautiful women. In this way, the time she would be favored would be shorter, and she might not even be favored from the beginning. A legal wife who was completely ignored by her husband was not even as good as a favored concubine. He went out for a while, ordered someone to guard the door, and then came back. What do you want to say? Father, instead of choosing Prince Kong, why not choose Prince Rui? Evil daughter, do you know what you are saying? Luo Rongping wanted to go forward and slap her. Choosing a side was not a trifling matter. Those in power hated fence-sitters the most. Even if he had not really gotten close to Prince Kong yet, it would be soon. It was a critical time. Perhaps in a few days, he would be able to meet the prince directly. If he chose another master at this time, not only would all his previous efforts be in vain, but he might also be retaliated by Prince Kang's faction. Father, I know what I am saying. Listen to me first. It won't be too late for you to get angry. Well, I'd like to hear it. What else can you say? Father, let's not talk about other things. Between Prince Kang and Prince Rui, who is more capable, who is more appreciated by His Majesty, and who is more favored by His Majesty, even us indoors women know clearly. Although the position of Crown Prince is not decided by His Majesty's personal preference, Prince Rui's advantages are obvious to all. The fight for the throne has always been about the results, not the process. The most obvious advantage that Prince Rui has over Prince Kang is that he has the right commander-in-chief in charge of military power. To put it bluntly, even if Prince Kang ascends the throne, if Prince Rui is unwilling, before Prince Kang stabilizes the throne. Luo Jingying paused, but Luo Rongping knew what she meant. Go on. Father's wisdom is unparalleled. I believe that when you were choosing, your real goal was not Prince Kang, was it? Naturally, it was not Prince Kang. It was just that at that time, Prince Rui had no choice but to side with Prince Kang's faction. Even if it was so what? You have to know that if you abandoned Prince Kang and chose Prince Rui, not to mention the position of Wang Fei, it would be hard to say if you could even become a side consort. Do you think you are so cheap? Then what are the chances that father can make daughter Kang Wang Fei? It's not that daughter is looking down on father, but based on our family, even if eldest sister is not married, there is not much hope for her to become Prince Kang's second Wang Fei, right? Why should I? In order to achieve her goal, Luo Jingying, who had always been loftier than the sky, had belittled herself like this for the first time. She thought that she did not mean what she said, but this was the truest truth that she was unwilling to face and admit. But Prince Rui is different. It is much easier to obtain the position of side consort. Even if I can't do this, what if daughter can give birth to a son for Prince Rui? Don't forget, the concubine in Prince Rui's residence who had high hopes also did not give birth to a son. This matter was released by someone with ulterior motives, and almost everyone knew about it. Prince Rui has been ridiculed a lot these days. If daughter gave birth to Prince Rui's eldest son, he may be able to become the son of the first wife in the future. The affairs of the world are unpredictable. Who can say for sure? With Prince Kang, there will be no such advantages. Even if daughter is a Wang Fei and gives birth to a son of the first wife, she will still be inferior to the son of the first wife. Father, don't you think so? Luo Rongping frowned and quietly pondered. He had to admit that his daughter's words were reasonable, but he did not want to waste all his efforts and take risks. Not to mention how to establish a relationship with Prince Rui. Luo Rongping threw out the problem. He wanted to see if this daughter, who had made him look at her in a new light, could give him a pleasant surprise. Wealth comes from danger. It depends on whether father dares to do it or not. What do you mean? Be a nail for Prince Rui to plant in Prince Kang's faction. You really dare to say that? One mistake, and you will lose your life. Luo Rongping looked at her coldly. That's why wealth comes from danger. This is the fastest way to gain Prince Rui's trust and an important position. Compared to slowly climbing up in Prince Kang's faction, it is much better to be mediocre for the rest of your life. In this way, wouldn't it be logical to mention the matter of daughter entering Prince Rui's residence? That Fei position might be easily obtained without any effort. As for how to establish a relationship with Prince Jin, daughter was on the street 2 days ago. Luo Jingying played down the matter of Prince Rui, helping her out of her predicament. Although Prince Rui doesn't care about a colored glass lamp, we can't not care about it. Father, use this as a reason. There must be a way to establish a relationship. Lucia slightly narrowed her eyes as she looked at her own daughter. It really made her somewhat surprised. Luo Rongping sunk into contemplation. It was clear that his heart was really moved. Previously, when he mentioned to Lucia about marrying his daughter to Prince Kang, he did have that idea. He said it so solemnly. But wasn't it because Lucia didn't understand the outside world? In fact, he was very clear that to achieve his wish, the possibility of daydreaming was higher. He mainly did it for Huan Yang. He hoped to use this as a condition to fool Lucia and make her restrain herself a little. He just didn't want to accidentally hit the road and get an unexpected harvest. Father will think about this matter carefully. Looking at Luo Jingying for the first time, he became very amiable. You performed very well today. This is how Luo Rongping's daughter should be. You must continue to maintain it. Father doesn't want to see you like before, always doing stupid things. Daughter was young and insensible before, making father worry. In the future, I will certainly not be like this. Luo Rongping got up. I'll go first. Lucia got up slowly and sent Luo Jingying off with Luo Rongping. Then, she sat back and looked at Luo Jingying with a measuring gaze. Luo Jingying felt very uncomfortable under her gaze. These days, her fear of Lucia was really increasing day by day. She couldn't help but shrink back a little. Mother, what's wrong? I thought you had really grown up. It turns out that you're just a flower. You won't last long. Lucia faintly said. Mother. Luo Jingying was embarrassed by her sarcastic words. Your attitude was very good just now. Why can't you continue to pretend? Because you've achieved your goal. Without a goal to support it, you can't hold it anymore? Luo Jingying's lips wriggled twice, and her expression was somewhat evasive. Mother, what are you talking about? You grew up under mother's eyes. You can hide your little thoughts from others, but can you hide them from me? Do you have a crush on Prince Rui? Mother, no. If you have a crush on him, then so be it. Lucia waved her hand to interrupt her. This time, your taste is not bad. Straighten your back. You have the courage to say those words to your father. You can also be neither servile nor overbearing, open and generous. Now that I haven't done anything to you, you're already shrinking back? I've told you before, in front of anyone, you have to show the same magnanimity as before, including me. Since you have that ambition, you must have the corresponding ability and self-restraint. Luo Jingying subconsciously straightened her back, but her eyes were still a little erratic. Mother, you're not angry? Why should I be angry? Prince Rui is indeed a good candidate, compared to Chen Jingmin, who knows how many times better he is. If this matter is successful, Luo Jingwan, and those people will be nothing. You can easily trample them under your feet. However, you must not be complacent about this matter. Other than your father and us, you can't let anyone else know. Otherwise, when the time comes, our entire family will have to bear the consequences. Do you understand? Mother, I know the severity of the matter. I absolutely won't say a word. Go back to your room. I want you to learn etiquette, how to deal with people, and some other things from the etiquette instructor. You won't be perfunctory and feel uneasy anymore, right? Luo Jingying's face was a little hot. Mother, daughter was insensible in the past and didn't know your good intentions. In the future, I will definitely learn well. It's good that you know. Go. Daughter will take her leave. The family of three thought that they did it secretly, but who knew that there was a kind of scheming person in this world? Not long after, these words all fell into Gong Mama's ears. Gong Mama's face was still expressionless. She wouldn't tell Miss about this matter, mainly because it wasn't as fierce as before with the third branch. Almost everyone in the Luo family knew about it. This matter could be considered as a family's secret plot. If everyone knew about it clearly, anyone would be suspicious, let alone someone as exquisite as Mississippi Jingwan concentrated on taking care of her precious flowers and plants. For the time being, she put aside the matters of the outside world. After all, Yuan Xiaoqiao and Zhou Shuang's bodies could only be slowly nurtured. She wasn't a doctor, so she couldn't help at all. As for Sun Yijia's marriage, it was the highest authority of the Qi Yuan dynasty. No one could say anything about it. Now, she hoped that the daring Jin Qin Wang, who was known as the living king of hell, could mess up this marriage. Although the imperial family broke off the engagement, which had a great impact on a woman, Sun Yijia was different. In any case, she was already disfigured. If she stayed in Dinggua Gongfu, there would be a few people to protect her. Everyone thought that Li Hongyuan would enter the palace as soon as he returned to the capital. Even if he didn't go to mess up the marriage, he should go and pay respects to his Fu Huang Mufei. But unexpectedly, he directly returned to Jin Qinhuang Fu and closed the door. Not to mention the brothers who sent people to check on his situation. Even the people around Lu Qingdi, who came to the door, were met with a nose full of dust. Lu Qingdi was so angry that he flipped the table and smashed the booklet. He roared and cursed, but everyone could hear that no matter how angry he was full of energy. It could be seen that when Jin Qinhuang returned, his spirit also came back. He scolded for less than an hour. Evil creature, unfilial son, ungrateful wretch, without stopping. Originally, at this time, he was still in the imperial study discussing matters with the courtiers and 2 or 3 of his sons. In the end, he encountered this matter. A group of people could only hang their heads and wait for him to scold them. However, Li Hongyuan, he wasn't here at all. It was so embarrassing. Whoever was in front of him was unlucky. Many people could do this kind of thing, let alone the emperor. Doing it was even more natural and self-righteous. No one could refute or protest. If you dared to snort at him, he would immediately cut you to death. He was not below one person, only above millions of people, so he was willful and unreasonable. The Grand Secretary of the Cabinet, Ruan Ruizhong, Ruan Daran, had never made a mistake in political affairs. At this time, he was also scolded like a dog by Lu Qingdi. To say whether he resented the main culprit, Jin Qinhuang, in the beginning, there might be, but time after time, he had long gotten used to it. No matter how angry or resentful you were, it was useless and would harm the body. The best way was to listen and wait for Lu Qingdi's anger to subside, or wait for Jin Qinhuang to enter the palace to let Lu Qingdi transfer his anger. However, listening to Lu Qingdi's scolding, the people below more or less dispelled the idea that Lu Qingdi had already found Li Hongyuan. Whether a person was really angry or pretending, especially in this kind of emotional situation, after a long time, it could still be seen. They didn't know how many cups of tea Lu Qingdi had drunk, but finally, he slowly stopped scolding. After scolding, the political affairs had to continue. After reluctantly dealing with the political affairs, Lu Qingdi let the sons of the officials scram, and then went straight to the Jade Essence Palace in anger. Without waiting for Imperial Consort Su to salute, he said, "That evil creature and unfilial son, Zhen, is so angry. Missing for so long, doesn't he know that his father will be worried? Coming back, he didn't even enter the palace to pay his respects. If it was someone else, Zhen would have already taken his head." For this kind of situation, Imperial Consort Su had long been accustomed to it. She personally poured a cup of tea for Lu Qingdi. "Your Majesty, calm down. You should let Qinxia say it. The reason why Yuan dared to be so unscrupulous was because of your indulgence." Zhen indulged. "Isn't it because of my beloved consort?" Lu Qingdi glared. Imperial Consort Su wasn't afraid at all. She looked at him with a smile and stroked his chest. Yes, Qinxia indulged. But if your Majesty didn't indulge Qinxia, Qinxia also didn't dare to indulge Yuan. In the end, it was your Majesty who indulged him." Lu Qingdi angrily glared at her, refusing to admit that the evil creature's current virtue was mostly because of himself. Why didn't Li Hongyuan directly enter the palace? Why didn't he say that Mu Gonggong had the most right to speak? But it was also very difficult to say. When Li Hongyuan returned to Jin Qinhuang Fu, he directly bathed and changed his clothes. Then, he lay back on the bed and refused to move. With his dead appearance, you still expect him to enter the palace, expect him to receive guests? Wait until he was willing to slow down. That's right, he was willing. Li Hongyuan's slowdown lasted for 3 days, making Lu Qingdi's patience almost reach its limit. If he still didn't enter the palace, he would definitely send people to surround Jin Qinhuang Fu and capture him into the palace. Li Hongyuan wore the imperial attire of a Qinhuang. From head to toe, there wasn't a single spot. His entire person had an imposing appearance and was extraordinarily handsome. Excluding other things, just based on his bearing and appearance, there weren't many girls who wouldn't be convinced by him. Mu Gonggong tidied up the corner of his clothes for him and sighed in his heart. If outsiders knew the real master, He was afraid that all the girls in the capital would be dead set on him. However, Li Hongyuan only occasionally went to court and generally wouldn't wear the imperial attire. What happened today? So solemn. Qin Huangfu's imperial attire, Qin Huangfu's ceremonial attire. The main gate of Jin Qin Huangfu opened, and he mightily went out. There were many Qin Huangfu in this area. One by one, they quickly knew that this person finally went out after returning to the capital and was preparing to enter the palace with such momentum. They were all Qin Huang, so their imperial attire and ceremonial attire were the same. They wore the imperial attire and used the ceremonial attire frequently. However, they only used it occasionally. Sometimes they wouldn't see Li Hongyuan use it once in a year or two. But once he used it, it gave people a different feeling. However, if you wanted to say what was different, it wasn't clear. When Lu Qingdi learned that Li Hongyuan finally entered the palace, he was overjoyed and couldn't help but stand up. But he immediately thought of something and angrily sat back down. That evil creature still knows to enter the palace. When he comes, let him kneel outside for 2 shurchen. 1 shurchen equals 2 hours. Then not long after, the people below told him, Emperor, Jin Qinhuang went to Yuchui Palace. Lu Qingdi almost smashed the imperial desk again. Digression. https://www.bicken.com/11/118076652967. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bikago mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 85. Li Hongyuan unhurriedly walked through the gate of the Jade Essence Palace. Along the way, he had attracted the attention of many people and made many little palace maids blush, and their hearts beat faster. For this living king of hell, as long as they didn't get close to him and just watched him from a distance, it was really pleasing to the eye. This son pays his respects to Imperial Mother. Noble consort Su couldn't help but be dazzled by her son's unbelievably handsome looks. Unfortunately, it was probably because he was too good-looking that his other aspects were too horrible to look at. If he could be a little better in other aspects, or not have such a bad temper, or not be so lustful, or be able to do some proper things instead of not doing proper work, then even if he was a jinx to his wife, there wouldn't be no one to take care of her. It was a sad thing to talk about. Quickly rise. How are you honor's injuries? I've troubled Imperial Mother. This son is fine now. Imperial consort Su was still in good spirits, but she had lost some weight. It was probably because she didn't have any news of him a few days ago, and couldn't eat or sleep well. Knowing that he had returned to the capital safely, she was relieved and recovered some of her energy. It had only been 10 days, so his injuries naturally couldn't have healed. However, for someone who could move freely in less than 20 hours, her worries were unnecessary. How could it be fine? Imperial Mother heard from the imperial physician. Look at you, child. If your injuries haven't healed, you should have just told your imperial father to rest at ease and recuperate in the manner. Yet, you didn't say a single word, causing your imperial father to be anxious all day long. The courtiers suffered, but they didn't dare to blame your imperial father. Instead, they marked you down. Have they not put a small mark on this son's head? It's not that big of a difference. Li Hongyuan said indifferently. Imperial consort Su was also very helpless about his sloppy and careless attitude. Where did you go wrong? How did you become like this? It has nothing to do with Imperial Mother. It's this son's own fault. Li Hongyuan was absolutely obedient in front of Imperial consort Su compared to when he was at odds with Lu Qingdi, and occasionally talked back. Since you know your own fault, can't you change it? It's been a long time and can't be changed. Or is it that Imperial Mother doesn't care about me anymore? Are you starting to dislike me? Li Hongyuan looked at noble consort Su with a faint expression. Imperial consort Su inexplicably saw the grievance in his eyes. Her heart softened, and her temper immediately dissipated. All right. Don't look at me like that. Do whatever you want. Your imperial father doesn't care about you, and you're already in your 20s. I can't be bothered to care about you. She still had to blame her son for being too handsome. Even a slight softness in his gaze was unbearable. It was no wonder that those women would die after being pampered by him for a few days. Even she, as his mother, could succumb to him. You came directly to this consort again? Why don't you go to your imperial father first? He'll be jealous again. Imperial consort, Su said angrily. Li Hongyuan curled his lips into a smile. Is imperial father jealous of your son or imperial mother? Noble consort Su was startled by his sudden smile, and became angry. She grabbed the teacup beside her and threw it at him. Your imperial father was right. You're a vile creature. You even dare to play with your imperial mother? It's been too long since this consort taught you a lesson. Are you itching for a beating? Do you believe that this consort won't beat you up again today? Li Hongyuan pretended to dodge. He knew that the teacup was still far away from him. How could noble consort Su really want to hurt him? Imperial mother, don't be angry. This son knows his mistake. Noble consort Su sneered. You know your mistake, you know your mistake. When have you not known your mistake? And when have you changed? It's said that there's nothing better than knowing your mistake and being able to change. What if you don't change after knowing your mistake? I'll definitely change this time. There won't be a next time. Imperial mother, don't be angry and harm your health. Li Hongyuan hurriedly said. Noble consort Su was startled. Her first reaction was, why was he so obedient this time? Then she inexplicably felt sad. No matter how much of a scoundrel Yuan was, as long as his mistake was related to her, he would always change immediately. As he said, he wouldn't make the same mistake a second time. She knew that he loved her dearly, but as a mother, how could she really care about her son's small mistakes? However, this child was so serious every time. If she really pointed it out, she was afraid that he wouldn't know what to do. Remember to pay respects to your imperial father first in the future. She didn't mention this matter. If I go there first, I probably won't be able to come over today. Li Hongyuan was very considerate and didn't mention it again. In the future? Let's talk about it in the future. What are you planning to do now? Noble consort Su's entire body seemed to deflate. She was very weak. Imperial mother, don't worry. This son doesn't plan to do anything. Noble consort Su's expression said, I'd be a fool if I believed you. This time, imperial father didn't inform this son, and made the decision to bestow a marriage first. If it was a beauty, it would be fine, but it just had to be an old woman with a disfigured face. Wouldn't this son be dissatisfied? It was clear that he was dissatisfied with the marriage, and wanted to argue with Emperor Licheng. However, when his mouth was poisonous, it made people want to seal his mouth. What nonsense are you saying? Miss Sun is just 16 years old. How can she be an old woman in your mouth? Li Hongyuan sneered. 16 years old. It's fine that she didn't get married before the marriage, but she didn't even have an engagement. If she isn't an old woman who can't get married, then what is she? She got married before the marriage, and had an engagement. How can she bestow a marriage to you? If she settled the marriage as soon as possible, imperial father wouldn't have to use this son as a scapegoat. Li Hongyuan didn't give in on this issue at all. This is getting more and more ridiculous. What do you mean by using you as a scapegoat? How can you talk about your imperial father like this? Isn't it? This son hasn't been in the capital during this time, so I don't know anything. Duke Dinghua has never been afraid of making a big deal out of it. He can't wait to make the whole Qi Yuan dynasty know about his daughter's disfigurement. Imperial father found him annoying, so he used the son to shut his mouth. What did the son say? If he is really so kind and benevolent, why didn't he directly bring her into the harem? She can be a companion to the empress. Aunt and niece can serve the same husband and spread a good story. Yuan evil creature. Before imperial consort Su could speak, Lu Qingdi's angry roar came from outside. His voice was so loud that it could shake the roof tiles off. Following that, something flew straight toward Li Hongyuan. As if he had eyes on the back of his head, Li Hongyuan took a step away. With a bang, the thing fell to the ground and shattered. A piece of first-class ancient jade the size of half a palm was gone just like that. Imperial consort Su couldn't help but feel distressed. Evil creature, what did you just say? Say it again if you have the guts. Li Hongyuan immediately used his fingers to dig his ears that were hurting from the shock. He opened his mouth and wanted to repeat what he just said, but he was pulled back by Imperial concubine Su, who quickly walked down from the main seat. She stood in front of him, and stood between Li Hongyuan and Lu Qingdi. Li Hongyuan raised his eyebrows and retracted his arm without a trace, but at the same time, he chose to shut up. This concubine pays respect to your majesty. Why did your majesty come to this concubine's place at this time? Imperial consort Su said with a smile. If I didn't come now, wouldn't I have missed out on this evil creature's nonsense? Your Honor didn't mean it. Your Majesty, don't be angry. Imperial consort Su comforted. Beloved consort, move aside. If we don't teach him a lesson today, we won't be able to get rid of the hatred in our heart. Your Majesty, Your Honor's injury hasn't healed yet. What if the wound opens again? It's said that the injury is on the son's body, but the pain is in the mother's heart. This concubine doesn't believe that your Majesty doesn't feel distressed. This concubine has been looking forward to his return day and night. If something bad happens again, wouldn't this concubine's heart ache to death? Imperial consort Su could still hold it in before, but now she couldn't stop crying. Yuana narrowly escaped death this time, but he was unknowingly bestowed a consort that he didn't like. He was angry in his heart, so he spoke without thinking. Your Majesty, please don't be angry with Your Honor, okay? Okay, I won't be angry. Beloved consort, don't cry. When Lu Qingdi saw that she was crying so sadly, he suddenly lost his temper and hurriedly coaxed her. He turned to look at Li Hongyuan, who seemed to be a little stiff. Evil creature, don't you see your mother crying so sadly? Who is this all because of? Why don't you coax her? Li Hongyuan had never coaxed a crying woman before, so he really didn't know how to do it. At least a small part of his stiffness and helplessness was real, and not purely an act. Mother, don't cry. That was all he could say. Fortunately, Lu Qingdi didn't count on him. He was very good at coaxing women, and soon made Imperial consort Su stop crying. Your Majesty, this concubine was disrespectful. This concubine didn't want to cry, but when I thought of Your Honor's near-death situation, I couldn't help it. All right. Isn't he standing here perfectly fine? Then Your Majesty, don't punish Your Honor. Okay. I'll do as beloved consort says. I'll let him go this time. Imperial consort Su smiled through her tears, but when she thought that her son was still here, she couldn't help but blush. It was really embarrassing. Li Hongyuan didn't feel anything. He was very serious about learning how his father coaxed people. Maybe it would come in handy in the future. In his previous life, he didn't see Wanwan cry, but who knew when she would cry in the future? If he didn't know how to coax people at all, Wanwan would be angry. He seemed to have heard that when a woman was sad and crying, she hoped that her man would coax her to show that he really loved her and cared about her. Then, one day in the future, Jingwan tasted the feeling of being coaxed by her husband. It really made people speechless to the extreme. It turned out that this overbearing, unreasonable, and possessive psychopath actually had an extremely low EQ. 8 out of 10 times. It was Jingwan who had to coax him. There were also 2 times when he sulked by himself, and Jingwan didn't understand. What was going on? Could it be that he had a relapse again? Imperial consort Su stopped crying. It was time to deal with Li Hongyuan. Lu Qingdi tried hard to suppress his anger. What do you want, you evil creature? Annul the engagement. Annul the engagement? You sure have a glib tongue. It's easy for you to say. But don't you know that a monarch's words are not joking? We personally issued the decree, but you take it back in the blink of an eye. Do you want us to have any face left? Lu Qingdi gritted his teeth in anger. It's not the first time you've lost face in front of your son. What's the harm in doing it again? Li Hongyuan had an expression that said he should have been used to it. You! Lu Qingdi raised his hand, wanting to slap him. Yuan. Imperial consort Su's voice was a bit higher and a bit shrill, but Li Hongyuan could see the trace of pleading in her eyes. Li Hongyuan paused and moved his eyes away. You gave a Ken such a wangfei, shouldn't you compensate a Ken with something? He really did compromise. Imperial consort Su breathed a sigh of relief. It had to be said that the anger in Lu Qingdi's chest also dissipated a lot. He was also afraid that this bastard would make a scene regardless of the consequences. Then what should he do in the end? Should he really punish him ruthlessly? Or should he compromise and take back the decree again? This evil creature was right about one thing. Because of him, as his father, he had lost face in front of the ministers more than once. Fortunately, this evil creature would occasionally listen to his mother. But thinking of this, Lu Qingdi's heart was unbalanced again. He was the one who controlled the world, the one who held the power of life and death. He was also his father. Did this evil creature not have any fear? Did he not have any respect for his father? Lu Qingdi's suppressed anger began to rise again. What? Imperial father doesn't want to give your son any benefits. Li Hongyuan's face turned cold. If Lu Qingdi dared to nod, then this matter would be over. He could forget about obediently marrying an ugly and old woman. Your Majesty, Yuan is like this because he is your son. Look, who else does he care about? Imperial concubine Su knew very well why Lu Qingdi was so angry at this moment. She was probably anxious to persuade him. But why did her words seem to be adding fuel to the fire and setting him on fire? Sure enough, Lu Qingdi stared at Imperial consort Su and said coldly, "He doesn't care about others, but is disobedient and unfilial to me. I'd rather not have such a son." Imperial consort Su's face immediately changed. "Your Majesty, you can't say that. If my sister's spirit in heaven heard it, she would be sad." Lu Qingdi's face changed, and his anger dissipated in an instant. Imperial consort Su helped him calm down and said gently with a smile, "If Yuan really doesn't care about you, I'm afraid you'll be even angrier." Who was the one who was angry when Yuan didn't enter the palace? Of course it's you, my beloved consort. Who else could it be? Lu Qingdi glared at Li Hongyuan again and snorted. It's my bad luck to have raised such a vile creature, who purposely angers me. Who told me to owe such a debt? Li Hongyuan remained silent, and pretended not to hear or understand. Imperial consort Su smiled good-naturedly and changed the topic. Since Yuan wants compensation, then what do you want? As long as it's not excessive, your imperial father will agree to it. Isn't that right, your Majesty? Lu Qingdi continued to snort. Imperial consort Su was helpless against this pair of father and son, who were like natural enemies. However, she was indeed used to it. If one day they got along peacefully, and the father was kind, and the son was filial, she was afraid that something big would happen. Since it's imperial father who wants to compensate this son, it's naturally up to imperial father to decide. Anyway, this son has a princess consort now, so I don't lack anything. Can't you talk nicely to me? Do you have to be so sarcastic? Or did this son say something wrong? Yes, there was nothing wrong. This vile creature had taken so many good things from him. If he, the emperor, was a little extravagant, the imperial censor would immediately send a memorial to reprimand him. Therefore, this vile creature was more extravagant and enjoyed life than him. If you couldn't find the most precious thing in the world in the emperor's private storehouse, perhaps you could find it in Jin Qinhuang's private storehouse. What he lacked was a wife and son. Now that he had a wife, he had no choice but to go back and find a wife to slowly give birth to his son. Bastard, after talking for so long, he was still brooding over the marriage. Lu Qingdi also regretted it. Why did he pull this vile creature out in order to shut Duke Ding's mouth and give him a lesson? What was he thinking at that time? Could it be that his days were too comfortable, and he had to make himself suffer to be happy? If he could, Lu Qingdi wished he could go back to the time before the imperial edict was issued and burn it. Then he fiercely punched himself to wake up so that he wouldn't make a mistake. Get out of here. You're not allowed to enter the palace before the marriage. Compensation and whatnot wait. Aken asks to be excused. Li Hongyuan didn't have the slightest bit of hesitation and quickly left. He left too quickly, making Lu Qingdi unhappy again. He blew his beard and glared at him. Imperial concubine Su looked at Lu Qingdi with hidden bitterness. Qinxie still wanted to keep Yuan for a meal. Yuan hasn't accompanied Qinxie to eat for several months. Lu Qingdi glared at Imperial concubine Su. Imperial concubine Su continued to look at him with hidden bitterness. She had a posture that wouldn't move even if the seas dried up and the rocks rotted. Imperial concubine Su tilted her head and chuckled. Aunt Qi, why haven't you stopped Jin Qinhuang? Seeing Lu Qingdi leisurely walk to the main seat, she didn't say much. She was afraid that if she said one more word, he would fly into a rage out of humiliation. She clearly wanted to keep her son for a meal, but she had to say one thing and mean another. However, this awkwardness was indeed caused by Yuaner's anger. Otherwise, how could she let him, an emperor, say good words to his son and nicely keep his son for a meal? Then he wouldn't be an emperor anymore. Li Hongyuan, who was stopped by Aunt Qi, wasn't surprised. He indeed hadn't eaten in the palace for a long time, so he agreed. Li Hongyuan had to admit that imperial concubine Su was a good imperial concubine. Even if he started his life from the age of 10, he couldn't deny this point. Not to mention in the inner palace, even in the entire Qi Yuan dynasty, there weren't many who treated their children as well as she did. She didn't beat him to death, or flatter him to death, when she treated her adopted son. He was no different from her biological son, or even better. And this difference was also genuine heartfelt. Li Hongyuan treated her as his biological mother in his previous life. He also did his best to help Li Hongming ascend the throne. In this life, there was also some sincerity in his respect for her, but most of it was gone. No matter how good she was, it couldn't erase one or two bad things. He once gave her a chance. If she gave up, he didn't mind letting bygones be bygones and taking care of her for the rest of her life. He could even spare Li Hongming's life. But she still did the same thing as in her previous life. He returned. Imperial father, have you finished dealing with the political affairs at this time? The ministers have worked hard. What he meant was that they didn't do their own things, and threw them to others. I spent so much money to support them. Naturally, they have to share my burdens. Otherwise, why would I support them? He glared daggers at Li Hongyuan. In the entire Qi Yuan, this evil creature was the biggest parasite, who only took benefits, but didn't do anything. Li Hongyuan naturally understood Lu Qingdi's meaning. But he had no intention of sharing his father's burdens. Lu Qingdi also didn't count on him. Come here and play 2 games with me. Imperial consort Su hurriedly asked someone to fetch the chess pieces and prepare tea and snacks. Li Hongyuan sat opposite Lu Qingdi and habitually took the black piece. Then he habitually gave 2 pieces to Lu Qingdi. Still so arrogant and conceited. Lu Qingdi snorted, but didn't insist on not letting Li Hongyuan take the black piece. Li Hongyuan's slender fingers twirled the chess pieces between his fingers. The great color contrast made his hand look even more beautiful. There was nothing to nitpick about his skin. Lu Qingdi put down his chess pieces very seriously. The further back he was, the longer he took to think. In comparison, Li Hongyuan was much more undisciplined. Basically, after Lu Qingdi put down his chess piece, he put it down as if he didn't even think. Imperial consort Su watched quietly from the side. She also knew how to play chess, but she only knew how to play it. Prince Rui Li Hongming and his sister Princess Min Xiang came hand in hand. They knew that Li Hongyuan was in the Jade Essence Palace. They also knew that Lu Qingdi was also in the Jade Essence Palace. However, when they came in, they didn't expect to see the 2 of them playing chess instead of looking at each other coldly. The brother and sister looked at each other and prepared to go forward and greet each other. However, Imperial consort Su turned around and motioned for them to be quiet. Princess Min Xiang ran happily to Imperial consort Su. She was already a 15-year-old girl, but she still hugged Imperial consort Su like a child. Li Hongming followed, and his gaze naturally fell on the chessboard. When he saw the situation on the board, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. His gaze then fell on Li Hongyuan, and became more and more complicated. He had never played chess with Li Hongyuan, and had never even seen him play chess. Now, he vaguely remembered that when Li Hongyuan was a few years old, people seemed to have praised his chess skills for being extraordinary. However, he was only a few years old. Even if he was praised to the heavens, people wouldn't really pay attention to him. Later, there were gradually no related rumors, and people just thought that he had faded into the crowd. But it turned out that he wasn't. When it came to chess, Lu Qingdi wasn't a top master, but he was above average. When Li Hongming played chess with him, he would lose 7 out of 10 times. Of course, because the other party was his father and emperor, Li Hongming didn't dare to go too far. According to his estimation, if he didn't deliberately let Lu Qingdi win, he should have a 50% chance of winning against him. But now, it seemed that Li Hongyuan had clearly won against his father by a large margin. Lu Qingdi placed another chess piece, and Li Hongyuan followed suit. Wait a minute. Lu Qingdi picked up the chess piece and did something like retracting his move. Li Hongyuan looked up at him and didn't say anything. He just took his hand back. The spectators were a little confused. They kept glancing at Lu Qingdi. Was he really the emperor of Qi Yuan dynasty? Lu Qingdi didn't pay any attention to them. He was focused on the chessboard. After thinking and hesitating, he finally placed his chess piece. You don't want to change it? Li Hongyuan asked. Seeing how filial he was, he didn't mind giving his father another chance. Lu Qingdi hesitated again. I don't want to change it, he said uncertainly. Li Hongyuan snorted softly and placed his chess piece. A piece of Lu Qingdi's chess piece was eaten. It's not as good as just now. He saw Lu Qingdi looking up and glaring at him. What? You still want to regret? Lu Qingdi gave up. Despite Lu Qingdi's desperate struggle, he was still defeated by Li Hongyuan in the end. Lu Qingdi's eyes almost turned red. You bastard, don't you know how to let me win? Let you win? I'm not lying to you. I have always respected my father. Of course, I have to be realistic. Why don't I see you respecting me usually? Let's play again. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652968. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bikago mobile reading website m.bicken.com. Chapter 86. Li Hongyuan threw the chess piece back into the box. Imperial father, you should find someone similar to you to play. In Urchin's opinion, third imperial brother is a good choice. Li Hongming's smiling face was slightly distorted. What was the meaning of this? Someone who was about the same level as imperial father was said to have been defeated by him. Li Hongyuan? Even though this was the truth, it was still infuriating. Under noble consort Su's gaze, before Lu Qingdi looked up and saw his face, Li Hongming forced himself to return to normal. It is Urchin's honor to play chess with imperial father. But Aken doesn't know if imperial father has the mood now. After all, Urchin's chess skills are much worse than 6th imperial brothers. It is precisely because they are evenly matched that it is fun. Li Hongyuan stood. Clearly, no matter what Lu Qingdi chose, he didn't plan on accompanying him. Min Xiang, let's go. Accompany imperial brother to walk in the imperial garden. Princess Min Xiang, who was suddenly called, was at a loss. She unconsciously grabbed noble consort Su's clothes, her resistance obvious. Noble consort Su looked at her daughter and frowned. What is it? Min Xiang, haven't you been complaining that you haven't spoken to your 6th imperial brother in a long time? Isn't this a good time? But Princess Min Xiang purposefully pouted. But Aken wants to accompany imperial father now. Aken hasn't spoken to imperial father in a long time. Finishing, she saw that Lu Qingdi seemed to want to say something, and immediately moved forward. Imperial father, Aken wants to stay by imperial father's side now. There will be plenty of time to speak with 6th imperial brother in the future. Also, Princess Min Xiang purposefully slanted her eyes at Li Hongyuan and pretended to dislike him. 6th imperial brother isn't as important as imperial father. Lu Qingdi laughed. He seemed to be very happy that his daughter chose him, and not that bastard. As expected, he was more important. Alright, just stay here. Your 6th imperial brother knows the way. Let him go by himself. Li Hongyuan didn't even look at Princess Min Xiang and walked out. Min Xiang, don't make imperial brother wait too long. Vile creature, did you not hear what Jin said? I want your sister to stay, but your sister doesn't want to go. Then imperial father should send someone to clean up those so-called concubines in the imperial garden as soon as possible. If there is another scandal of this son seducing a concubine, imperial father's dignity will really be swept to the ground. Lu Qingdi's face instantly darkened. It was definitely because he didn't do as he wished, so this evil creature deliberately brought up this troublesome matter to annoy him. But looking at his appearance, he must have been up to no good from the beginning. He deliberately came to the palace to stir up trouble. If the marriage didn't satisfy him, perhaps he would have made a scene. So he was not satisfied that he didn't make a scene just now, and now he wanted to make up for it. She wanted to tell him to come back, but she changed her mind. Min Xiang, go and follow him. Make sure he stays away from the others. Min Xiang didn't expect this to be the result. She reluctantly agreed, then slowly moved out. Min Xiang, don't let imperial brother wait for too long. I don't want to say the same thing a third time. Princess Min Xiang's body stiffened. She didn't dare to challenge her sixth imperial brother's patience. Lifting her dress, she ran forward in small steps and followed behind Li Hongyuan. Seeing this daughter, who was occasionally a little spoiled in front of him, following behind that evil creature obediently like a little kitten without claws, it was simply fine. Lu Qingdi didn't have any temper. He was the emperor, how could he care about these things? She brought this shame upon herself, she couldn't blame anyone else. Third son, come and play 2 rounds with Zhen. Yes, imperial father. He had many children, and only that one was disobedient. Suddenly, his old heart was comforted. Thus, in the process of playing chess, Li Hongming experienced the feeling of a loving father's care. He was simply overwhelmed by the favor, so he couldn't concentrate during the game and frequently made mistakes. Thus, Lu Qingdi's heart that was damaged by his 6th imperial son was repaired by his 3rd imperial son. His mood naturally improved, and he asked Li Hongming meticulously about all kinds of things. Li Hongming started to feel restless. Princess Min Xiang obediently followed behind Li Hongyuan. If Li Hongyuan didn't speak, she also pretended to be a little mute and didn't take the initiative to speak. The palace servants serving her also didn't dare to breathe too loudly, following behind eunuch Mu like little attendants. Perhaps it was because the incident with concubine, Li had taught the imperial concubines too much of a lesson. They had been trying to meet Lu Qingdi in the imperial garden, but when they saw this living king of hell, all of their expressions changed subconsciously. Then they walked far away. There was no need for Lu Qingdi to clear the area. Li Hongyuan's clearing effect was stronger than the plague. As Li Hongyuan walked, he ruthlessly crushed the flowers. No matter how expensive they were, he crushed them into a ball in his palm. The flower juice flowed through the gaps between his fingers drop by drop. Especially the red flower juice. It made Princess Min Xiang think of something. Her delicate little face became deathly pale, and beads of sweat even faintly appeared on her forehead. Li Hongyuan turned around. Min Xiang, are you afraid of Ben Wang? No. Looking at Li Hongyuan's handsome face with a smile that wasn't a smile, she didn't find it pleasing to the eye at all. Instead, she felt that he was like an evil spirit, and subconsciously took 2 steps back. As expected, Min Xiang is afraid of Ben Wang. Li Hongyuan reached out, as if wanting to pat her head. No, don't come over. Min Xiang flung Li Hongyuan's hand away. She turned and wanted to run, but for some reason, she tripped and fell to the ground. Li Hongyuan frowned and bent down to reach out. Min Xiang. He seemed to want to pull her up. Go away. Don't come over. Princess Min Xiang curled up her body and closed her eyes, waving her hands vigorously. Li Hongyuan wasn't a good-tempered person. His face immediately turned cold, and he slightly raised his hand. Eunuch Mu hurriedly went forward and put the handkerchief in his hand. As he carelessly wiped his hands, he coldly looked at Min Xiang, who was sitting on the ground. His gaze was gloomy. Seeing that something was about to happen, one of Princess Min Xiang's personal palace maids braced herself and went forward. Prince, don't be angry. The princess is just afraid of the red juice. She doesn't mean anything else. As she spoke, she put her arm around Princess Min Xiang's shoulder and softly comforted her, trying to help her up. However, She kept paying attention to Li Hongyuan's reaction, afraid that he would get angry. Perhaps Minxiang was really frightened. No matter how the palace maid comforted her, it was useless. She even showed signs of going crazy. When they first noticed that something was wrong, someone ran to report to noble consort Su. Thus, the three people in Jade Essence Palace naturally rushed over. What happened? Le Chengdi asked with a calm face. Looking at the situation, it was obvious that Jin Qinhuang had bullied Princess Minxiang. However, Le Chengdi didn't believe it, and neither did noble consort Su. Their son was indeed not a good person sometimes. Even if he occasionally looked for trouble, other than those beauties that he fancied, he wouldn't take the initiative to provoke other women. Furthermore, Minxiang was his younger sister. More importantly, Li Hongyuan had never been interested in bullying the weak. He didn't even look at what kind of people he offended on a daily basis. Daring to talk back to Le Chengdi, daring to sneer at court officials and disdainfully, daring to not be soft-hearted when dealing with his brothers. As for those noble gongzi and young masters who saw him, they were like mice that saw a cat. He wasn't that childish and senseless. On the other hand, Li Hongming looked at Li Hongyuan with suspicion and scrutiny. Princess Minxiang's palace maid hurriedly explained the whole story. Noble consort Su heard this and looked at Li Hongyuan's cold face. She was afraid that Minxiang didn't know what was good for her and made him unhappy. She hurriedly ordered the palace maids to directly carry Minxiang back to her palace. Then she explained to Li Hongyuan in detail. Yuaner should know that when Minxiang was 7 years old, she fell seriously ill. After she recovered, she developed the problem of not being able to see red juice. The imperial physician said that Minxiang must have seen blood somewhere and was frightened. However, when asked, she couldn't say anything. After that, she tried to avoid seeing red juice as much as possible. Li Hongyuan paused in the action of wiping his hands. Looking at the red silk handkerchief in his hand, he frowned. Ken doesn't know. Noble consort Su saw that he still had an expressionless face, but she could feel a trace of guilt from him. This was already very rare. As the saying goes, those who don't know can't be blamed. You don't have to take it to heart. In reality, Li Hongyuan was very indifferent to everyone. Other than his mother, he could get close to her. Even Li Hongming and Princess Minxiang, who both grew up in Jade Essence Palace, couldn't make him feel much concern for them. Thus, noble consort Su wasn't surprised that he didn't know about this matter. Sixth brother doesn't know about such an important matter. Minxiang will probably be very sad if she finds out. After all, Minxiang has always liked sixth brother. Li Hongming said with a smile. This prince originally thought that sixth brother was deliberately making fun of Minxiang, because she didn't listen to you just now. Li Hongyuan looked at him indifferently. Oh, so in the eyes of outsiders, this prince is such a petty person. Then if third imperial brother has something that you are afraid of, remember to keep it well. Otherwise, this prince will use this opportunity to make fun of third imperial brother. Shut up, all of you. Le Chengdi wasn't a hot-blooded emperor to begin with. In addition, he was old and hoped that his sons would be respectful to each other and have a happy family. Even though he knew that this was impossible, even though he knew that his sons were secretly fighting with each other because of the chair he was sitting on, he was still willing to deceive himself and others when it wasn't out in the open. Needles hidden in cotton floss would definitely make him angry. Noble consort Su also gave each of them a warning look, telling them to shut up. Mother, go and see Minxiang. This son saw that she seemed to be quite frightened. It would be better if mother was here at this time. Noble consort Su also knew that this was true, but she was also very worried. Then Yuaner, wait for mother. Lunch. Mother, I can accompany you to eat at any time. As long as you don't find this son bothersome, I can come to the palace to eat with you every day. Let's forget about today for now. Minxiang is more important. Noble consort Su was still a bit hesitant. Imperial father, mother. This son suddenly remembered that there is something I need to do. This son will take his leave first. Without waiting for their response, he turned and left after bowing, as arrogant as ever. After taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped. Mother, what does Minxiang like? Noble consort Su was surprised. Was he going to prepare a gift for Minxiang as an apology, or to calm her nerves? He said with a smile, "She likes anything that most girls like." "I understand. No matter what, it was the most troublesome to meet anything." It was rare for Li Hongyuan to be affectionate, and Lu Qingdi was quite happy. If it was directed at him, he would probably be even happier. Because of this happiness, he decided to compensate him with 30% more gifts. Li Hongming lowered his eyes, hiding all the emotions in them. Don't blame them. Even if they were raised by Imperial Mother, he was as jealous as the other brothers. If Li Hongyuan dared to do something, they wouldn't dare to do it. If they did something a little out of line, they would be lectured and reprimanded. However, Li Hongyuan could do a lot of disgraceful things, but at most, they would be yelled at by Imperial Father and Imperial Mother. Even the Imperial censors would keep their mouths shut. On the contrary, if he showed a little love for his brothers and sisters and cared for his elders, it would make Imperial Father and Imperial Mother very happy. However, no matter how much filial piety they put in, they would at most get a smile and a "you're so considerate." There was nothing else. This was the difference. It was a habit, so it was natural. No matter how out of line it wouldn't be worse, and no matter how excellent it wouldn't be better. On the contrary, if someone who was out of line suddenly did something that made people feel gratified, it would immediately make people forget his bad points. On the other hand, if someone who was excellent and perfect suddenly did something out of line, then his good points would be overturned, and people would only remember this one thing and be brooding over it. In the future, when they encountered similar things, they would immediately associate it with him, and he would never be able to wash himself as clean as he was before he was stained with dirt. As for Li Hongyuan's temperament, it was caused by many factors, such as the right time, the right place, and the right people. It was impossible for others to imitate him. Li Hongming not only suspected that Li Hongyuan was deliberately scaring Min Xiang, but he also suspected that the person who caused Min Xiang to be afraid of the red juice was also him. After all, ever since Min Xiang fell seriously ill, she subconsciously became afraid and distanced herself from Li Hongyuan. Of course, this wasn't obvious at the time, and almost no one noticed. When Min Xiang was young, she was very clingy and like Li Hongyuan. She always followed behind him like a little tail. After she recovered from her illness, she seemed to be the same as before. Later on, they slowly drifted apart. In addition, after Li Hongyuan left the palace and established a residence, Li Hongyuan's temper became worse and worse. It seemed reasonable that the two completely distanced themselves from each other. However, Li Hongming felt that it was somewhat strange. However, even if he suspected it, he didn't have any evidence. After all, Min Xiang couldn't explain it herself at the time. Even if his lady mother investigated thoroughly, she couldn't find anything. Now that Min Xiang was afraid of him, what could it mean? Many people were afraid of him. Those arrogant, unruly, and insufferably arrogant princesses and princesses. None of them dared to look down on others in front of him. If Li Hongyuan knew Li Hongming's thoughts, he would probably give her 3 words: quite smart. When Princess Min Xiang was 7 years old, Li Hongyuan was 14 years old. No matter how tender that shell was, it couldn't stop him from being a mature man who had been an emperor and had experienced countless difficulties. He would only punish a little girl for no reason. Since he did so, then there must be a reason. Since she wasn't someone who was blocking his path, then he would do such a thing and spend so much effort to scheme against a little girl only because Princess Min Xiang was related to Jingwan. This was naturally related to Li Hongyuan's previous life. After all, in his current life, Jingwan and Princess Min Xiang didn't have any relationship. The person who caused Jingwan's fate, Princess Min Xiang, also had a part to play. Because in her previous life, Princess Min Xiang, with her status as a princess, stole Jingwan's fiancé, Chen Zhengmin. If it wasn't for the fact that she didn't have Chen Zhengmin as her fiancé, Li Ruyu wouldn't have thought that Jingwan, who was skilled in flowers and trees, could be a threat to win Sun Yilan's favor and scheme against her. In the final court examination, although Chen Zhengmin didn't enter the first rank, he still placed third in the second rank. Although no one would remember him compared to the first rank, he was only 16 years old after all. He could be considered a young talent. Before that, Princess Min Xiang had coincidentally met Chen Jingmin once. That one meeting might not have been enough to make Princess Min Xiang fall in love with him, but in comparison, Chen Jingmin was a very suitable candidate for a husband. Princess Min Xiang had already reached the age of choosing a husband, and Princess Shang meant that her future was cut off. Usually, any ambitious man wouldn't like Princess Shang. Thus, the princes of the princesses weren't very satisfied with them. It wasn't easy to find a suitable one who was pleasing to the eye, but didn't have any background. Thus, even though she knew that Chen Jingmin was already engaged, she still begged imperial concubine Su. Although Emperor Li Qingdi valued Chen Jingmin's potential, Chen Jingmin didn't have any achievements. There were many outstanding people out there, and it didn't make a difference whether he was there or not. After finding out that Chen Jingmin wasn't married and didn't have an engagement, he naturally made the decision. In reality, before Emperor Li Qingdi knew about it, imperial concubine Su had secretly put pressure on the Chen family to break off the engagement with the Luo family. If it was any other family, even if it was the most outstanding one, they might be able to accept it. After all, it was only one person's future being cut off, and it could also benefit the other brothers. But Chen Jingmin's family was different. His father was his grandfather's only son, and he was the eldest grandson. Although he had two younger brothers, they were both born of concubines and were still young. No one knew what would happen in the future. For him to marry a princess was definitely a heavy blow to the family, especially his mother, who only had one son and had placed all her hopes on him. Now that all her hopes were gone, one could imagine how much hatred she felt. But her daughter-in-law was a princess. Not only could she not put on the airs of a mother-in-law, she also had to serve her like an ancestor. Her son also had to live in the princess's residence, and might not see her for 10 days to half a month. Everyone thought that Chen Jingmin was a docile sheep, but in reality, there was a wolf living in his heart. After losing his favorite cousin and ruining his great future, his mother was depressed and cried all day. As the saying goes, if you don't explode in silence, you will die in silence. And Chen Jingmin happened to be the former. He became a wolf that seemed to be silent, but was actually ruthless. Princess Min Xiang was dealt with very badly by him, but she didn't dare to say anything. She wasn't pregnant for several years after their marriage, and was scolded as a hen that didn't lay eggs. In reality, Chen Jingmin had never consummated his marriage with her. Even at this point, she didn't say a word to imperial concubine Su. Those who knew about this matter later really had a new level of respect for Chen Jingmin. Li Hongyuan's success in the end couldn't have been less due to Chen Jingmin's efforts. Although he had Sun Yilan's ability to govern the world, he could be regarded as Li Hongyuan's right-hand man. Logically speaking, if Princess Min Xiang hadn't stirred up the situation, Jingwan would have married Chen Jingmin in the end, and her life would probably have been smooth. Li Hongyuan wouldn't have had the chance to know that there was a woman like Jingwan in the world. From this point of view, all those who pushed Jingwan to that miserable fate should be regarded as Li Hongyuan's benefactors. Unfortunately, what he saw was what Jingwan had suffered. Sorry, he couldn't see anything else. No one should try to reason with him. A few days later, on the birthday of Great Elder Princess, was the opportunity for Princess Min Xiang to meet Chen Jingmin. As for how they met, Li Hongyuan didn't know. The only safe way was to trap Princess Min Xiang in the imperial palace, and Chen Jingmin couldn't enter the imperial palace, so he completely isolated the two of them. Before the palace examination, Chen Jingmin's marriage would be settled. At that time, even if Princess Min Xiang liked Chen Jingmin, without the previous encounter and the new opponent, that was hard to deal with, she could only leave it unsettled. If he let nature take its course, and let Chen Jingmin still be a princess, for Li Hongyuan, it was the most satisfying way to deal with his rival in love, on the premise that he couldn't kill her. However, out of some considerations, Li Hongyuan didn't want to ruin Chen Jingmin's future. He could learn from Princess Min Xiang's method of snatching people away, but he had to find someone else. Many years ago, Li Hongyuan made Princess Minxiang unwilling to see blood. So he didn't prepare for this day so early. At that time, it was just a coincidence that he came up with this idea on the spur of the moment. He just happened to avenge Wanwan first. Although as the person involved, Jingwan didn't know that there was such a big enemy. It was not a bad idea to keep the rest as a backup plan. Li Hongyuan thought back to a few years ago. The method he used on Minxiang seemed to be a little cruel. In essence, Minxiang wasn't a bad person. It was just that she had always been pampered and spoiled. She would snatch whatever she wanted and never think about other people's wishes. This wasn't just her. It should be a common problem for all of them. At that time, Li Hongyuan was trapped in the palace and didn't know about Jingwan's situation at all. Although he knew that Jingwan would grow up peacefully in Qian Prefecture, he was still very irritable because he couldn't see her. He was often in a state of devil incarnate, and always needed to find something to relieve the ruthlessness in his heart. Princess Minxiang's cat happened to be in his hands. He was in a good mood and chose a good place, leading Minxiang to find him alone. In front of Minxiang, he skinned the cat alive and deliberately made it very bloody. Minxiang's eyes were glaring red, and her ears were filled with the cat's screams. This lasted for a long time. Later, he even imprisoned Minxiang and blindfolded her. He placed the cat's corpse in her hands, and removed the black cloth covering her eyes. The bloody corpse pierced directly into her brain in the most intense way. Minxiang fainted from fright, and fell seriously ill. However, when she woke up, she couldn't remember anything, and was left with the problem of not being able to see red juice. And just in case, Li Hongyuan didn't let her see him from the beginning to the end. However, he always let her vaguely feel his existence. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652969. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 87. Li Hongyuan left the imperial palace, but he didn't get on the carriage. He came out today to show off. Whether he needed it or not, Eunuch Mu considerately asked the guard to bring his precious horse. Sure enough, Li Hongyuan directly took the reins and patted the horse's neck. This reddish-brown precious horse had glossy hair without any impurities. It was fat and strong, and its limbs were slender and powerful. Because of Li Hongyuan's action, it snorted twice and rubbed its head against his arm. Facing this horse that he had raised for several years, Li Hongyuan showed a rare trace of tenderness. I haven't let you run for a long time. Today, I'll let you run to your heart's content. When Eunuch Mu heard this, he knew that his master was going to make trouble again. He'd better let the city defense team get ready early. Li Hongyuan simply turned over and got on the horse. He was extraordinarily handsome, and no one could tell that he was still injured. When he said that he wanted to run, he didn't restrain himself at all. He let the precious horse run wild. As his guard, he naturally had to follow him. Therefore, even if he knew that he would probably go to the prison of the capital government for a few days, he still braced himself and followed him. He should have been aware that he would be stabbed and imprisoned if he followed such a master. Since his master had left, the guard of honor could only return home empty-handed. Speaking of Li Hongyuan's horsemanship, of course, there was nothing to say. In the battlefield for several years in his previous life, he had run on all kinds of roads. Even in the downtown area, he was confident that he wouldn't bump into anyone, not to mention around the imperial palace. He wouldn't see an ordinary civilian for several streets. However, under normal circumstances, although there were few people, once people appeared, they were basically in groups. Even ordinary officials had 3 to 5 servants, not to mention people of similar status as Li Hongyuan. Li Hongyuan acted as if he did not see Prince Kang's guard of honor coming towards him. Not only did he not order the horse to slow down, He even sped up and rushed straight towards the carriage. The coachman was quite frightened and subconsciously pulled the reins on the left side. The horses pulling the carriage naturally swerved to the left side. In addition, the horses seemed to be frightened. All of a sudden, the carriage swayed and almost flipped over. Li Hongyuan rode his horse and whizzed past the carriage on the right side, while the guards behind him chased with all their might. The dignified guard of honor of Prince Kong was scattered like this, creating chaos. Li Hongyi was hit several times in the carriage, so his anger naturally soared to the sky. When the carriage finally stabilized, he loosened his grip on the wooden plank inside the carriage. Unable to restrain his anger, he got up and abruptly opened the curtain. Who is it? Did they eat a bear's heart and leopard's gall to dare to hit Ben Wang's carriage? Who is it? He didn't see the main culprit. A bunch of trash. So many people can't keep the other party. What is Ben Wang raising you for? Everyone hurriedly knelt down to beg for forgiveness. Master's anger is... How could Prince Kong wait for them to explain? He jumped down from the carriage and kicked away the person closest to him. Trash speak, who is it? Replying to Master, it is Jin Qinwang. Prince Kang's personal attendant didn't dare to have the slightest hesitation. He hurriedly replied with a trembling voice, fearing that if he spoke slowly, he would anger him. But this answer could also explode his master's anger 10 times, or 100 times, so he didn't dare to lie. Sure enough, at that moment, Li Hongyi's complexion could be said to be a black bottom pot. Because of the force, the veins on the back of his hand, neck, and even his forehead were throbbing. Li Hongyuan. He squeezed it out from between his teeth. He really wanted to eat his flesh, drink his blood, and chew his bones. Go back and give Ben Wang 50 whips. Go. No matter how angry he was, no matter how much he hated, he couldn't do anything to him. It wasn't that he didn't dare, but that he couldn't. Because if he endured it, this matter might be over. If he fought back, that bastard would be like a mad dog, biting him and not letting him go. The final result would only alarm Fu Huang. And the one who would suffer in the end would never be him, Li Hongyuan. This was what made him most aggrieved. When Prince Kong learned that Lu Qingdi was in the Jade Essence Palace, he went directly to the Empress's Kunyi Palace. The Empress, who was graceful and magnanimous, raised her eyebrows unhappily when she saw Li Hongyi. Her son was sometimes reckless and impulsive, but he wouldn't be so rude. His current appearance, to put it seriously, was disgraceful. What's wrong now? Prince Kang's anger naturally wouldn't subside so quickly. He angrily told the Empress what had just happened. The Empress was silent for a few breaths. Other than that, she didn't have any other reaction. It's not the first time. You've been like this every time. Even if you've angered yourself to death, he still lives freely without any harm. Alright, calm down. You're giving Ben Wang a headache. If you encounter this kind of thing in the future, just think of it as being bitten by a dog. If a dog bites you, you can't always think of biting back. Li Hongyi said in his heart, if a dog bites you, it naturally won't bite back. It will directly chop you up. It wasn't easy for his anger to subside, but Li Hongyi didn't dare to disobey his mother, so he could only suppress it. The Empress glanced at him indifferently. It's useless to be calculative now. As long as you can become the final winner, no matter how much humiliation you suffered, you can make up for it 10 times, 100 times over. Let him be proud now. What I want is the final result. In this process, for some things that don't affect the overall situation, even if Li Hongyuan steps on my head and shits on me, I'll endure it. Mother, you're the Empress who is the mother of the world. Why do you have to go to this extent? Do you know why I'm still the Empress even though I'm obviously not favored by your father? Because I can endure it. 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 When the Empress said this, she paused. She seemed to have thought of something and said more. Ding General Manor has great power. The reason why it hasn't fallen to the same situation as Wuanho's mansion is not because the emperors of several generations have been particularly kind to Ding General Manor, but because Ding General Manor is backed by an aristocratic family with a deep background. The entire Sun family is intertwined. It's not easy to uproot it. Ding General Manor has come to this point today. There's no way back. If it retreats, it's not only because your uncle and others are unwilling to give up this great wealth, but also because once it retreats, it will become the next Wuanho's mansion. Although the greater the power, the more your father fears it. Only by holding great power can Ding General Manor be protected. Your father won't let me be the only one in power. At the same time, he won't let Su control the imperial harem. In the imperial harem, he also needs balance. This is another reason why I'm sitting on the Empress's throne. The world thinks that I and Su are fighting to the death, like water and fire. It seems that we're evenly matched. It's either the West suppressing the East, or the East suppressing the West. We always lose one round and win the other. How can it be so coincidental and regular? There will be times when you're tired of fighting, but for more than 20 years, there's almost no time for rest. Why do you think? Because your father wants us to fight. Don't think that our fighting will make him angry. In fact, the fiercer we fight, the calmer his heart will be. If one day, Empress Mother doesn't want to fight anymore, you'll probably have to enter the cold palace. Prince Kong listened to the Empress's understatement, but he could imagine all kinds of hardships. Li Hongyi's lips squirmed, but in the end, he didn't say anything. There were some things that were useless to say. Empress Mother, what about Li Hongyuan? Why does father indulge him so much? Naturally, it's because of his birth mother, the imperial noble consort from back then. That woman was truly the most beautiful woman in the world. That woman's position in your imperial father's heart is something that all the women in the imperial harem can't compare to. For Su Shi to be able to be the most favored in the imperial harem for so many years, it can't be without the factor of that woman. How did she die? It's said that she suffered from dystocia and hemorrhage. It's said. This word was so subtle. The Empress nodded noncommittally. If that was the case, then there was most likely a problem. Imperial father's indulgence towards sixth younger brother is simply unrestrained. Then, with the other brothers fighting among themselves, will imperial father directly pass the throne to him in the end? All of us are targets that father set up for him? Thinking of this possibility, Li Hongyi's hostility was even stronger than Li Hongyuan's. Imperial son is thinking too much. An emperor without power and influence, what right does he have to sit on the throne? To be a rare emperor for a day? If father has that idea, he will naturally pave the way for him. Pave the way? How? Kill his other sons and the people behind them? Don't talk about whether your father has that much courage. Even if he really dares to do that, how many people do you think will be left in the end? At the same time, it will inevitably cause chaos. This country will probably. The unfinished words were spoken without finishing. If he can't do it openly, can't he train people in secret? The Empress glanced at her son. For a moment, Li Hongyi's face was burning. Although his mother didn't say anything, her eyes were clearly looking at him, as if he was an idiot. It's not that I'm looking down on your father, but your father secretly nurtured a small number of people. It's still possible for him to nurture people who can support the entire court and the entire Qiyuan dynasty. The Empress smiled, and there was even some disdain and contempt in her smile. The Empress's smile made Li Hongyi shudder. He knew that his Empress mother was very powerful. He also knew that if it wasn't for his Empress mother scheming behind the scenes, he wouldn't be Li Hongming's opponent at all. It was very difficult to admit that he was inferior to others. However, Li Hongyi wasn't really arrogant and didn't know his own limits. For example, there were many times when he was like a marionette in his Empress mother's hands. He didn't know if he would be the puppet for the Empress Dowager to govern from behind the curtain. When he ascended the throne one day, the Empress acted as if she didn't see Li Hongyi's unpredictable expression. Before you entered the palace, I received news that your sixth brother played a game of chess with your father in the Jade Palace. In the end, your father was defeated miserably when he gave 2 pieces to your father. Li Hongyi suddenly looked up at the Empress in disbelief. He had never won a game of chess with Luqing Emperor. Your sixth brother has never been an idiot. On the contrary, he has been very smart since he was young. He knows how to protect himself best. He knows very well that if he shows off his abilities, He may have died long ago. You should be glad that he seems to be on your third brother's side. But in fact he doesn't. If he really helped your third brother wholeheartedly, the power in your hands would shrink by at least 1/3. Therefore, my son, you should endure when you need to. Don't force him to side with his opponent. You will only suffer a great loss. Mother, are you saying that Li's sixth brother is hiding his abilities? He also has ambitions for the throne. My son, do you really want me to say those 2 words? Idiot. Li Hongyi's face was pale from the Empress attack. Perhaps he has ambitions. As a prince, there are not many who would not covet that throne. But perhaps because of the time of birth, there are differences in ambition. Your sixth brother abandoned school when he was young. He didn't learn many things that he should have learned. This is not something that can be made up for with intelligence alone. After so many years, he has long been used to extravagance and debauchery. How likely do you think it is for him to work hard without the help of outsiders? At least until now, he has not become anyone's opponent. You don't need to ask about him for now. Naturally, I will send people to keep an eye on him. You just do what you should do. Son knows. Then, Li Hongyi hesitated as if he had something to say. A man should speak and act decisively. If you have something to say it. Don't hesitate. Back then, was the imperial Guifei not of good birth? After so many years, I haven't seen anyone from her maternal family. At least 9 out of 10 people in the world think so. However, it is not true. That woman actually came from the Pei family, the #1 aristocratic family in Jiangnan, and was the legitimate daughter. As everyone knows, the Pei family was loyal to the royal family of the previous dynasty. The Li family seized the country and changed the dynasty. The Pei family was unwilling to be loyal to the new ruler, so they all withdrew from the court and returned to Jiangnan. Because the influence of the Pei family was not small at that time. If the Pei family was destroyed, it was likely that many people who had submitted to the great ancestor would betray him and directly cut off the possibility of the great ancestor ascending the throne. Or perhaps the great ancestor wanted to show his benevolence, so he let the Pei family leave in one piece and issued an imperial edict. Unless the Pei family committed the crime of rebellion, the Li family's emperor could not make things difficult for the Pei family. Because of this, the Pei family naturally would not allow their people to have any relationship with the Li family. For nearly 100 years, there was no room for reconciliation. Furthermore, the Pei family had a family rule that legitimate daughters could not be concubines. The daughter of the Pei family fell in love with your father. At that time, your father was still a prince, and just happened to go to Jiangnan on a mission. This matter was very fierce. Your father was almost demoted to a commoner by the previous emperor, and had no fate with the throne. In the end, the daughter of the Pei family was eliminated from the Pei family. It was announced that the daughter of the Pei family had suddenly died. The daughter of the Pei family changed her name, and followed your father to the capital alone. She hid for 3 years, and changed her identity to enter the palace as a concubine. Your father stood his ground against the opinions of the masses, and did not hesitate to violate the ancestral teachings to let her enter the palace without power, influence, or background, and be conferred the title of Imperial Guifei. Since father cared so much about the daughter of the Pei family, according to common sense, he should have passed the throne to sixth brother. He should have brought sixth brother by his side since childhood, and taught him well instead of giving him to Su Guifei to raise. If at that time he had paved the way for sixth brother to ascend the throne, with father's full support, I believe many people would be willing to support Li Hongyuan, and not the current situation. This son thinks that there must be something else hidden. If the identity of the daughter of the Pei family is a secret of the imperial family, then what you said is a secret of secrets. Imperial mother also doesn't know. Imperial mother, should we investigate? It might be of great benefit to us. Imperial son, if it was possible to investigate, after all these years, Imperial mother would have already done it. Why would I wait until now? Back then, the imperial noble consort died from blood loss during childbirth. All the palace servants who served her were angered by your father emperor, and were all beaten to death to accompany her. Many other people were also implicated and lost their lives. Right now the only people who still know the truth, other than your father emperor, is probably only Su Shi. Since then, that woman has been a taboo existence to your father. If you don't want to die, don't touch her. What business do you have in the palace? After talking for a long time, the empress finally asked him about proper business. It was clear that she did not want to continue talking about this matter. After knowing that sixth brother entered the palace, I thought that he most likely wanted to resolve his marriage with cousin. This son wanted to know what the result was. Bengong didn't know that you were so idle, imperial son. Does imperial mother think that this matter is not important? Because of this matter, he was not at ease these few days. Did imperial mother not care at all? Then Bengong asks you, how is this important? Your cousin's disfigurement has become an established fact. Her original value is still there, but after she was bestowed to your sixth brother, she became a completely useless chess piece. It's the same no matter who she marries. Whether your sixth brother compromised or stirred things up to the end, what's the difference? Or is it that if he stirred things up, your cousin can still marry into a good family as your uncle wished, and give you another helping hand? Li Hongyi opened his mouth and was speechless. Did sixth brother compromise, or did imperial father compromise? This son can also prepare a congratulatory gift for sixth brother in advance, can't it? Su Shi has such a good imperial mother. She has long hoped that her son can have a proper person to take care of him. Although Yi Jia is disfigured, other than that, she is basically impeccable. Even if your sixth brother dislikes her, why can't he let her cover her face and order her around as a servant? She can also take care of Jin Qin Wang Fu and handle the social interactions outside. Li Hongyi understood. With imperial concubine Su, his good sixth brother would compromise. Sixth brother has always been someone who doesn't like good things. His wedding gift is really a bit difficult. Alright, imperial mother will prepare it for you. You don't have to worry. Then this son thanks imperial mother. Empress Sun waved her hand and let him spend more time on his errands. If there were things he did not understand, he should learn more and ask more. Don't think that he had nothing to do after finishing the matters at hand. Not long after Prince Kong left Kuani Palace, he met Prince Rui, who was also preparing to leave the palace. The two sworn enemies exchanged greetings for a while and showed their brotherly respect for each other. A few days ago, they both wanted to rope in OL4 to work together to get rid of the other party. However, they didn't expect that when they thought that they had succeeded and were complacent, they realized that they had been tricked by OL4 at the same time. Then, just as they left the palace, they both received news that their good sixth brother had rampaged through the city. He whipped several young masters from influential families and destroyed a lot of things. He had his group of bodyguards enter the capital's prison and went to Ding Guogongfu alone. This was not the end. The main thing was that he went directly to Sun Yijia despite being stopped. Sun Yijia was in her own small courtyard, the inner residence. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/6652970. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicon.com. Bikago mobile reading website, bicon.com. Chapter 88. Although everyone in Ding General Manor wanted to stay far away from Li Hongyuan, the king of hell, they couldn't. In such a big house, if they didn't stop him or lead the way for him, they didn't know how many people he would offend. After all, there were still many unmarried girls in Ding General Manor. As for Sun Yijia, she had already been betrothed to this king of hell, and she was a disfigured and worthless person. It was human nature to offend her a few times. Therefore, although there was no one in front of Li Hongyuan, a very strange encirclement was formed around him. There were more or less people in three directions looking at him, as if they were facing a great enemy. If he walked in the direction where there were no people, their expressions were relatively relaxed. If he walked in the direction where there were people, there would immediately be a few more people in that direction, implicitly telling Li Hongyuan that he couldn't go in this direction. Li Hongyuan sneered and took 2 more steps forward. The faces of these servants became very ugly. Their legs were clearly trembling, but they still refused to move a single step. Their eyes were as wide as copper bells, and they unconsciously put up a defensive posture. It was as if they were looking at death calmly. If Li Hongyuan took another step forward, they would really dare to make a move. What a group of loyal and good servants. Li Hongyuan held the horsewhip in his right hand and gently stroked it in the palm of his left hand. His eyes were dark, and the gloomy atmosphere around him seemed to have turned into a substance, making people couldn't help but tremble with fear. Suddenly the whip lashed out fiercely. Ah! With a scream, the whip fell precisely on the face of a servant in front of him. The servant covered his face and trembled. In the eyes of outsiders, Li Hongyuan had always been this frightening, but in fact it wasn't. At least if the people around him were present, they would know that his anger was absolutely not low now. Why do you think? He couldn't go anywhere else, but he could go wherever his Wanwan was? Today it was him. If it were someone else, wouldn't it be the same? So in his heart, there was only the person he cared about the most. If it weren't for Jingwan's coincidental appearance, he would have completely forgotten where he was going. He didn't even think about it. If it were someone else, would they be as unruly as he was, barging into someone else's backyard? That was why he was so unreasonable and unreasonable. He treated others with 2 different sets of rules. When it came to Jingwan, he had to use the best and most beneficial way for her. It was wrong to stop him now, and it was even more wrong to not stop him. Li Hongyuan's anger soared. His attacks were fast, accurate, and ruthless. The group of people screamed in pain from his slaps. Those who still had a bit of courage had all retreated to the back. After all, they couldn't really fight him. How many lives would you have if you dared to fight a prince? Such a thing naturally alarmed old Madame Sunday. She arrived almost at the same time as Duchess Ding. Seeing this chaotic scene and the wanton and insolent Jin Qinhuang, Duchess Ding was so angry that her whole body trembled. Her fingernails almost sank into her flesh. She really wanted to tear him apart. It must be said that old Madame Sun, who was used to the wind and waves and didn't get angry easily, was also angry. Originally, she had already handed over the power of the backyard, so she didn't need to come forward. However, she was worried that her daughter-in-law would do something irrational. After all, because of Sister Jiaer's matter, this daughter-in-law was almost crazy. Who dared to talk about Sister Jiaer? She even ignored her own identity and immediately turned into an old hen protecting her calf. Old Madame Sun didn't expect her to be like this. No matter if she was sincere or hypocritical, or if she had other intentions, the pitiful hearts of parents in the world were pitiful. Even though she knew that what she did was wrong, more than 1 or 2 people came to her to complain, and she turned a blind eye. But now, they all knew that they must restrain themselves and force themselves to suppress their anger. The servants were rude and offended Wang Ye, asking for Wang Ye's forgiveness. When old Madame Sun opened her mouth, Li Hongyuan finally stopped and turned around. Ben Wang thought that the masters of this Ding Guofu were all dead. Listening to his words, he really pulled the hatred as soon as he opened his mouth. It wasn't enough to tear him apart alive. I didn't know that Wang Ye had graced us with your presence. Asking for Wang Ye's forgiveness. This prince has always been a magnanimous person. As the saying goes, those who don't know can't be blamed. Next time, this prince will remember to inform your residents first. Next time? You still want there to be a next time? Is this your Jin Qinhuang Fu? You can come and go as you please? Old Madame Sun intentionally or unintentionally blocked her daughter-in-law. At that time, we will definitely welcome Wang Ye. Just don't know what Wang Ye has graced us with your presence today. Do you still need Ben Wang to say this question? Then, asking Wang Ye to move to the antechamber. Chenfu will let my granddaughter dress up before going to see Wang Ye, so as not to be disrespectful in front of Wang Ye. You're going to marry Ben Wang. What kind of appearance can't you see? Now is just a meeting in advance. Besides, the servants of your Fu have unanimously pointed out the way for Ben Wang. Ben Wang personally thought that you didn't intend to stop Ben Wang. Anyone who had some respect for their future wife probably wouldn't say such rude words. Hearing this, how could she not know what he meant? Duchess Ding's eyes swept over the servants around, as if they were poisoned. Very good. She, the mistress of the family, was still here. She had made it clear before. But these people still dared to humiliate her daughter. It seemed that she was too good-natured. Li Hongyuan used his actions to tell them that he really knew where Sun Yijia lived. Old Madam Sun personally stepped forward and blocked Li Hongyuan's path. Wang Ye, Sister Jia has a female guest. Asking Wang Ye to move. Duchess Dingwa anxiously opened her mouth. A female guest? If it were someone else, Li Hongyuan's next sentence would probably be, "What does it have to do with Ben Wang, whether there is a female guest or not?" However, because he knew that it was Jingwan, he naturally wouldn't say this. These people should also know that there is a female guest in your fu. Letting a man break in. Dinggua's mansion really doesn't take other people's girls seriously. These words were hurtful. If it was spread out, which girl would dare to go to the gate of Dinggua's mansion? It was as if their Dinggua's mansion was like that. Wang Ye, be careful with your words. Old Madam Sun's attitude became a little cold. Li Hongyuan smiled indifferently, as if he was watching a joke. Grandmother, mother, there are so many of us here. Even if His Highness went to little sister's small courtyard to see little sister, it wouldn't be too out of line. His Highness is a descendant of the imperial family, so he definitely wouldn't do anything disrespectful. As for the female guest in my sister's courtyard, naturally, there's no reason for Wang Ye to move for an ordinary woman. I can only wrong that girl to move for Wang Ye. Sun Yilin, who was like the moonlight breeze, walked over unhurriedly. His eyes were clear and bright, as if he was untainted by the mud. Li Hongyuan looked at him coldly. He didn't know that Sun Yilin was at home today. Whether it was a coincidence or not, in his eyes, Sun Yilin had evil intentions. If it was because of his previous life, Sun Yilin was a capable minister in his eyes, and he looked up to him. Then, since Sun Yilin had feelings for Wan Wan, his impression of him immediately fell to the lowest point. Especially when he thought of the same interests and hobbies as Jingwan. Li Hongyuan's expression became a little gloomier. In Li Hongyuan's eyes, there were many people who had the ability to govern the world, but there was only one Jingwan. How could Sun Yilin not feel Li Hongyuan's coldness and hostility towards him? The former was easy to explain, but where did the latter come from? Sun Yilin didn't intend to pursue the matter. After all, even if he asked, there was a 10% chance that he wouldn't get an answer. Old Madam Sun seemed to think that Sun Yilin's words were reasonable. She called the servant girl beside her. Go and invite the guest from Sister Jia's courtyard to the main courtyard. Li Hongyuan's target was Jingwan, not Sun Yijia. In his eyes, other than his Wan Wan, who else had the charm to take the initiative to come to his door? With Sun Yilin's interference, it seemed that he wouldn't be able to see anyone. If others made him unhappy, he would make them unhappy 10 times more. There's no need. I'm more interested in having a drink with Master Lin now. His wanton eyes were full of malice. Duchess Ding's face changed in an instant. Her attitude towards Sun Yijia had changed a lot. She was willing to protect her daughter strongly, but only if Sun Yilin was not involved. If she had to choose between Sun Yilin and Sun Yijia, she would definitely choose to sacrifice one to protect the other. Your Highness, we've already come to this step. I think Yijia has already dressed up. Why don't you see Yijia? Perhaps Your Highness will find that even if Yijia's face is ruined, the flaw can't cover up the jade. Li Hongyuan smiled. It was still a very seductive smile. Do you know what you look like now, madam? A procuress in a brothel, who recommends the girls in the brothel to her patron. Duchess Ding was so angry that her face turned blue, and she almost fainted. Old Madam Sun's face was not much better. When she looked at Li Hongyuan again, there was a faint unkindness in her eyes. The servants were also extremely embarrassed. They looked at Li Hongyuan, as if they were looking at a monster. They had never seen such an arrogant person. Your Highness, please watch your mouth. Sun Yilin said unhurriedly. No one could tell that he was in a bad mood at all. Li Hongyuan felt that Sun Yilin seemed a little strange just now. But now he finally understood what was wrong. He narrowed his eyes slightly. Sun Yilin now had a trace of the cabinet chief, who had experienced great changes in his family, the struggle for the throne, and the ups and downs of the officialdom in his previous life. He was calm, wise, elegant, and often smiled. You could never see anger on his face. Then, he was sold by Li Hongyuan. Maybe he helped Li Hongyuan count the money, and was sent to prison. Maybe he was grateful to Li Hongyuan for saving the lives of his family. How old was he at that time? It seemed that he was only in his 30s. At this age, he sat in the position of cabinet chief, but no one in the court said anything. In addition to being afraid of Li Hongyuan's abuse of power, it was also because Sun Yilin's ability and skills were convincing. Although Li Hongyuan didn't remember what state Sun Yilin was in his previous life, he was definitely not so sophisticated. It seemed that some changes had made him change a lot. Not only did he enter the officialdom in advance, but his mentality also matured in advance. Li Hongyuan didn't know whether this was good or bad, but he didn't care. He never expected to be the final winner again, with the memory of his previous life. Once things changed, it was bound to cause a series of changes. He had long realized this. He, Li Hongyuan, was indeed arrogant, but he was not arrogant. What? Did I say something wrong? Duchess Ding's attitude explained everything. I just wanted to invite you for a drink, but she hurriedly pushed your sister out. Li Hongyuan sneered softly and coldly. Sun Yilin, no matter how much you care about your sister, what can you do? She is just a chess piece manipulated by others. Even if she wants to marry me, the most unbearable person in your eyes, you can only watch. You can't do anything, not even say a word. Sun Yilin's expression didn't change, but his hands and his sleeves clenched into fists. Then he said with a faint smile, Your Highness is very self-aware. This bit of sarcasm didn't hurt Li Hongyuan at all, and he was indeed very self-aware. He knew what kind of person he was, and he was very clear. In comparison, he preferred to tell the truth. It was really fun to make everyone feel uncomfortable and have nothing to say. He nodded carelessly. I have always been very tolerant. How about this? I will give you a chance to choose. Do you want to drink with me? Or do you want me to go and find your sister to pour out my heart? Sun Yilin cupped his hands. This official just happens to have a jar of good aged wine. Your Highness, please do me the honor of drinking with me. Not all people in Duke Ding's mansion are blinded by interests, but Li Hongyuan looked at Sun Yilin and touched his chin with interest. I am looking forward to this marriage. Thinking of all the things about Li Hongyuan, almost everyone's thoughts went astray. The servants couldn't help but feel pity for their young master. At the same time, they felt indignant in their hearts. He wanted to marry their young lady, but he wanted to touch their young master. Such an excellent and perfect young master was going to be defiled by this living king of hell. How could their young master face others in the future? However, if these people noticed the look in Li Hongyuan's eyes, they probably wouldn't think so much. The depths of those deep eyes were cold without any warmth. Duchess Ding wanted to stop him, but Sun Yilin raised his head as if he had sensed something. He gave her a slightly profound look. Duchess Ding froze, her lips squirmed, but she couldn't say a word. Please, Your Highness. Sun Yilin indifferently reached out his hand and made an inviting gesture. When the two people were far away, Duchess Ding looked at old Madame Sun helplessly. Nyang, are we just going to watch and do nothing? Then what do you want to do? Let people throw Jin Qinhuang out? I thought you could really protect Sister Jia, or at all costs. Now that I see it, it's nothing more than this. Since you don't have the courage to resist Jin Qinhuang, then you can only choose to accept it. Lin Ge, chose to sacrifice himself for his younger sister. Regardless of whether others think it's not worth it, and regardless of whether others say he's stupid, as long as he thinks it's worth it, it's enough. After all, he's a man. It's only his reputation that will be damaged, and it won't ruin his future. On the contrary, the emperor may see that he was bullied by Jin Qinhuang and feel guilty, and think more highly of him. Old Madame Sun said coldly, Nyang, how can you say that? At this time, mother-in-law still spoke sarcastically. Wasn't that her most beloved grandson? Duchess Ding was anxious and angry, her eyes red. With the reputation of being a pet molester, how can Yilin marry and have children? Even if his future is not damaged, others will say that he's relying on sex, to get to the top. There are many people who want to cling to Duke Ding's fu. Why can't he marry and have children? If his future is not damaged and there are benefits, isn't that enough? Don't you put benefits first? For benefits, you can sell your sons and daughters. The current situation may be to our Duke's satisfaction, especially your eldest son. He may be so happy that he's about to celebrate. And you ask yourself honestly, are you protecting Sister Jia or yourself? Nyang, it's not like this. It seemed that some secret had been exposed. Duchess Ding was angry and wanted to explain. If it weren't for your greed, would it have become like this today? If it's really for Sister Jia's sake, as long as you give enough sincerity, I believe that the Emperor will take back the order. Even if you yourself take out the thing at the bottom of the chest, this marriage can also be dissolved. But you never thought that way. Duchess Ding looked at old Madame Sun in disbelief. Nyang Yu, how do you know that? Duchess Ding sneered. How would this old woman know about that thing? If you don't do anything, don't stop Brother Lin from doing something for his sister. After that, she turned around and left without the help of the maid. Obviously, she was not interested in answering Duchess Ding's question. Sun Yilin's courtyard was very large, and there were all kinds of precious flowers and trees in sight. However, because they were placed and taken care of properly, there were not too many good things put together. Instead, it felt cumbersome. On the contrary, there was a dazzling scenery at every step. Li Hongyuan casually plucked a flower. The tiny thorns on the branch pricked his finger. He casually threw the flower away. Raising his hand, a dark red bead of blood appeared on his fingertip. With a swipe of his thumb, the blood bead was wiped away. Sun Yilin stood to the side in silence. Li Hongyuan walked and picked flowers as he walked. He did the same thing as before in the imperial palace, destroying flowers ruthlessly. After walking around, Li Hongyuan did not see the 4 famous peonies collected by Sun Yilin. Then he saw the greenhouse in the courtyard. It's hidden quite well. He looked back at Sun Yilin. Why, you don't want to let Ben Wang take a look? Sun Yilin naturally knew what he meant. It hasn't bloomed yet. Presumably, Wang Ye is also not interested. It doesn't matter if it hasn't bloomed yet. Ben Wang can also let people move it back and slowly wait for it to bloom. Wang Ye is joking. You think Ben Wang is joking? Seeing that Sun Yilin's face finally changed slightly, Li Hongyuan unhurriedly opened his mouth. You are indeed joking. However, it's good to raise your pots of peonies. If Ben Wang knows that you gave them away, don't blame Ben Wang for using them as firewood. Sun Yilin was quite surprised. This was not like Jin Qinwang's style. What did he mean by insisting that he keep them in his hands? Would Li Hongyuan tell him that he couldn't bear to see him use flowers and trees to hook up with his future wife? Other than giving a stalk of Wei Zi to Jingwan, Sun Yilin didn't see him give it to anyone else. Naturally, to prevent this kind of thing from happening again, the best way was to cut the weeds and pull out the roots, burning them all. Unfortunately, his wife already knew that these flowers were destroyed by him. After they got married, it was inevitable that she would settle accounts with him. Even if his romantic affair was fake after all, it could still be used as fun to settle accounts. But according to how much Jingwan cared about flowers and trees, even if they weren't her own and he destroyed them, she would still be really angry. As for borrowing a knife to cut flowers, other than him doing it himself, in the entire capital, even if other people dared, they wouldn't do it. As for those who didn't dare to do it, there was no need to talk about it. Li Hongyuan picked another flower, and then hooked the corner of his mouth. He reached out and put the flower hairpin above Sun Yilin's ear. His action, in the eyes of the servants not far away, was simply indescribably charming and flirtatious. Li Hongyuan was the most handsome man in the entire capital, and even the entire Qiyuan. There was no need to talk about the degree of handsomeness, and Sun Yilin's appearance was absolutely not bad. At the age of 17, he was still a young man who hadn't completely grown up. With a flower hairpin, it added a bit of beauty to him. Sun Yilin was half a head shorter than Li Hongyuan. When the two people stood together, it inexplicably made people feel that they were a match. This was Jingwan's first impression when she saw the two standing together. Then her eyes were covered by a hand that stretched out from the side. Jin Qinwang, fifth brother. Sun Yijia's face was covered with a veil, her expression somewhat stiff as she opened her mouth. When the two heard this, they turned their heads at the same time, and then their complexions turned bad. Li Hongyuan's purpose was only because he was bored, and did it for those who were afraid that he would do something to Sun Yilin. But it seemed that he overreached himself. How could it be seen by Wan? What if it was misunderstood? Although what one sees may not be the truth, but many times, misunderstandings were caused like this. Being caught in the act, even for someone as thick-skinned as him. He also felt somewhat embarrassed and guilty, okay? The problem was that he still couldn't explain. Compared to Li Hongyuan, Sun Yilin wasn't much better. No matter what purpose Jin Qinwang had for doing that kind of thing, he was able to deal with it as usual. Besides, although Jin Qinwang was smiling, but in reality, he was a bit playful, a bit bored, and there wasn't the slightest bit of ambiguity. So much so that his fingers didn't even touch his own hair. However, when it was seen by the girl he admired, it was completely different. After all, he wasn't that shameless Li Hongyuan. In this aspect, he was more like a blank sheet of paper, so his face couldn't help but turn red. Jingwan just happened to pull Sun Yijia's hand down, and saw Sun Yilin's red face. Could it be that this famous Lin Gongzi wasn't actually coerced, but was actually in love with Jin Qinwang? It was only because of their reputation that they didn't openly walk together? Li Hongyuan saw Jingwan's slightly flashing gaze, and knew that she had misunderstood. He couldn't help but have a somewhat dark expression. Then, in Jingwan's view, it was because he was displeased because his good thing was disturbed. If the two people knew Jingwan's thoughts, they would have the heart to die. Li Hongyuan shot a glance at Sun Yilin. Sure enough, he thought too much. What steady, wise, and refined cabinet grand secretary. This face was too lacking. Even if he really did something wrong, he still had to be confident and self-confident. His face not red and his heart not skipping a beat. Digression. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652971. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile edition reading website Bicken.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.